Okay, so I'm going to start now. Just sharing my screen. Okay. Okay, so thank you for attending today's webinar. Today's webinar is a fantastic topic, the reviews of Metaverse Global Readers Insight. So we have actually originally 14 live session global readers, including the review of the whole the global readers that I have organized. And this year, through the you maybe participate in the ticket talks or the global innovators roadshow, or my personal webinar for the specific topics of the metaverse. So it will be cover every aspect of the metaverse you maybe know. So without any delay, that I introduce the what will be covered today's live session. So we have originally 14, but unfortunately, one speaker is missing due to some COVID-19 matters. You know, it's recently is COVID-19 is this reappear, and then a lot of people are actually affected. Especially I've been to South Korea, and then there is a perfect place to have a good organized or good managed the COVID-19. But recently there are a lot of people actually affected by the COVID-19. And then I organized three seminars in South Korea, and then some actually was missing because of the COVID-19. And then today we have the same problem. But anyway, I hope that you care about your health, and then especially the summertime. I hope you have a very wonderful vacation now. Okay, so we are going to have 13 speakers to cover, because of these speakers, someone are covered in a fantastic innovation and the very insight about the future and the very timely matter about the current sectors. So you will be enjoy their speaking and or some of the presentation. And then I'm going to start before my starting my introduction. Actually, the time scale schedule is looks like that. I'm going to give you some overview, and then starting from Akina, we have like a 13. So we will cover nearly 3 hours for the whole aspect of the metaverse. So not only for the each speakers participant, it will be each other learn, and then also share their insight. And for the logistics, because of this a tight schedule of the times, so I prefer that if you have any question to any specific speaker, and then you can leave your question in the chat. So the speaker will give you the answer after his presentation, or in case that the time allow, you can maybe the speaker can have some time that he can have from the in the live question, and then you can have some Q&A session during each speaker's presentation. But you have in mind that only 10 minutes allowed for each speaker. So I hope that you remember your time slot. I will share with you. So I will introduce about what we have covered for this year about the metaverse. So first we look at what is metaverse. Actually, you may know about a lot of the report from the reading consulting company and the bank, and then some magazine covers. So Gartner, and then we are going to be the metaverse in a few years. And then CD estimate a huge potential of the economic potential of the metaverse. And then also the recent trend is Metaverse Standardization Forum is allowed, so you can join, then you can collaborate with other global readers about how, especially for the to make open metaverse through the interoperability. And the recent one is to finally Time magazine, mainstream magazine, actually the cover in the into the metaverse. So so basically that I'm gonna cover with you that the current mainstream is, as you see here, the rank is. into the metaverse. So the current mainstream of the metaverse is to building the virtual space. So it's a virtual world. The virtual world is consists of the like space, usually the 3D space, but you can be the 2D, and anyway, it's a space. And then there should be object matters and everything there. And then time. So it will be the new world, digital world. And then into the metaverse means that the real space entities like you and me join this metaverse virtual space as an avatar, or you can join as like a physical entities mapping, or the representation of the physical entities to the metaverse. So this is I think that the current mainstream, usually that you heard about from the news, like Meta and the Microsoft. A lot of the company actually express their like doing some business and launching the metaverse platform. Everything is consists of the like this virtually oriented, but the physical space will be joined into the virtual space. And then, but the other like trend is to, I also experience in South Korea. In South Korea, they have in the like in the real space, and then you will like experience virtual entities share the join your physical space. Usually, you can think about the Pokemon, like augmented reality. And then this is not the mainstream now, because this still require to like waiting good device. Like yeah, you can use like a smartphone, because most of the smartphone actually implement like augmented reality like a capability, but also like a more immersive, that they need more like extended reality devices. But there is a rumor that the Apple not preparing, and then there are a lot of the, for example, recently Meta also announced that the very highly sophisticated, highly developed like XR devices using this kind of like a dear space based, but the virtual space will be joined like augmented reality. So two mainstream, the current mainstream is like a virtual space, but augmented virtuality. So, and the other will be coming will be the like augmented reality. And then in the future, they will be joined. And the one example is a digital twin, and they will be completely synchronized both sides. And the mixed reality will be, you can cross over between the like a virtually oriented and then physically oriented. You will in certain time that you can recognize whether you're in the virtual space or the real space. That will be the fundamental goal, that we are going to have a completely like converged space of physical and real space. We don't know which direction we will go, but the fundamental factor is that the virtual and real will be joined in some way. And then we cover a lot of the like what kind of application is going on. And then most of the application, as I told you, is related to like a virtually oriented. So you have like a virtual shop, like a fashion, and then virtual brand, and then virtual shopping, retail, automotive, consumer electronic entertainment, even banking, travel, real estate, restaurant, education, healthcare, manufacturing, all aspects of the industry verticals, will they have own virtual created like a metaverse application they express. And then also like implementing a lot of the new features and business and commerce and NFT and a lot of the features you can experience it. Okay, and then here is the one thing that in the CB inside about the like they recognize certain big industries lies of virtual worlds could disrupt. So you can see that this is a virtually oriented metaverse, and then they characterize the 13 industries and give the detail about the use cases in 13 industries. And also like we will look at the what kind of like infrastructure, what kind of like software, what kind of like devices, and what kind of application we needed. I summarize in one page like what kind of architecture we needed. So we have for example, Doug Hohulin, he is an expert in the infrastructure, and then also like we have a lot of the other aspect like Web3 is like if you want like a decentralized metaverse, we need like a Web3, and it was like a lot of the different aspect of the like technology, AI or the digital twins would require. And most importantly, we want to build the metaverse world. And then you need to provide this metaverse world. So how you actually design 3D designing, modeling. So we have a lot of the technologies available, like a spatial mapping and designing tools, and like a Unity or some other tool like a metaverse world building platform like Roblox or like a Gepetto, like Horizon, and the decentralized way, the sandbox, decentralized land, and special. And then based on that, actually, the will form in the next internet. So next internet means from the Web 2, the 2D based, like a centralized ownership, to really move into like a decentralized ownership with a special web, with the supporting by the backend, by the like all kind of like a special computing, Web3 computing, physical computing will support. And then we have like a lot of experience will be generated. So we have like several like innovator actually that implementing this kind of the new next generation internet, because special web, and then in the particular what kind of like for example factory or the retail fashion that they will be implemented and provide like experience. So experience is one thing that a very important thing we can provide. And then we actually looking at the detail about the what kind of metaverse infrastructure require, the communication infrastructure, computing infrastructure, and software infrastructure, everything that we have a like expert in this area. And then also here is one trend that in a coming year we'll have a more advanced like XR device. So this is one from the Mark Zuckerberg actually the show that this kind of the really like advanced like a topic of the like XR device will be coming. They actually they announced that there will be nearly there is a Turing test, like for example Turing test means that they will be provided a completely realistic experience to human. And then they said they will be up to that level, and then they're now developing prototype. And another aspect is like patent applications, and then intellectual property. So there are a lot of the initiative patent, and then copyright, and also like a lot of the trademark. And then this space actually are covered. And then here is one example that actually looking at the patent, actually you can expect what kind of like innovation will be coming. So this is Apple is a Lumo, like a Metaverse XR device, and we can think about design is like a thin glass tile, and then display is like a highly like a autofocus, dynamic focusing technology, and then also like a control by the eye tracking, and then it'll be mixed reality, and the spatial audio will be provided. So we can expect what kind of like a new aspect of the XR device will be coming from Apple. And then a lot of people estimated the quarter 2 of the next year will be this one. And then if it's coming out, it will be completely disrupt the current state of the metaverse. Okay, and then here is the one thing that I actually a lot of talk about. I'm also the patent attorney in the United States, so I look at a lot of the new innovation going on through the patent. So I look at some illustrator how kind of like patent available to build a metaverse world and application. Like this is like a Nike patent about how they utilizing their NFT and the metaverse to provide the commerce in their like a Nike shoes or something like that. And this is another one in metaverse, like a retail store. So you can imagine that whatever you do in the country in the application, there are a lot of fundamental pattern is going on. And I also like as a patent attorney, I was an inventor. I published one patent last year, and then I have another like a company to like produce another NFT and Web3 metaverse related patent this year. And then also like I'm preparing another one for the fashion industry. So you can think about whenever you do some like innovation, you also think about the patent application here. So you can see that a lot of aspect of the patent already is applied by a lot of innovators. And then here is one that why experience is important, because experience with another stage of the economics. So So it means that a lot of people are focused on the current metaverse will provide, like, for example, creative economy. Like there are different type of economy they provide. Creative economy means that the co-creation through the like a participate of users and then providers, for example, Roblox in the like generating games and game artifact, they collaborate, but also like not just only this kind of the like um, uh, creative economy. And then they also provide like in the real space that they provide a new type of the value creation. So usually that means that from the goods and service, and this will be the fourth generation of this like a service. So we will fundamentally the high valued like service will be the experience. So this is one thing that we can have. So experience is very important. So I categorize as a metaverse user experience. You can have an immersive, emotional engagement, active, and then crossover and the co-creation, and there are storytelling. So how you actually design this metaverse experience is important. And based on that, actually, I have a webinar about how actually design sustainable metaverse experience, because I put in the sustainable because of what kind of world metaverse we want build. And then I have I had some webinar topic was how we build sustainable and responsible metaverse. So we have two speakers for that. So that you can generate a new economics. So new like the way actually to generate the value, and also like through this kind of the new type of the experience you can provide, and also you need to provide not just for the like a experience, but it is a sustainable and responsible experience. So we have some webinar about how cover this kind of topic, how we can design and how we build. So we fortunately we have several speakers and free the cover this topic. And then also like if you think about the new like a service or your product, your business in the metaverse, and I provide the framework how actually the build up your metaverse business model. So the most important thing is understanding user experience and then what kind of business opportunity you will have. And then you can design through the traditional like a business model, like a metaverse value proposition, value creation, and value operating model and value capture model. So through this process, actually, I have my my customers, my client to build up their metaverse business model. So this is one topic we cover. And then also we cover actually we also have a speaker about this one is the what kind of trend of the investment. So usually the big tech companies invest in also like a lot of the venture capitals. And then I look at the some example, which one is a hot area of the investors looking for. And then I find the most important, like most interesting and the most like people are interested in to invest is Web3 NFT. Like this is current one. And also like XR device experience. And then so this is two topics actually the current mainstream of the like investors are looking for. So if you are interested in like a Angel or the Series ABC, and you can think about what kind of the venture caps are available and then what they are interested in. And this is just one example. You can do your own research. And this is one thing that also McKinsey recently they published what kind of the money actually the investors. But this is not just for the venture capital. They cover like the all investment, but mostly they cover M&A. So for example, like incumbent, like big companies to fill the gap in their innovation and create a new service. So usually they allocate their assets through this M&A process. The recent trend is a huge amount of money actually allocate to acquire company related to metaverse. So if you are a startups, and then it is a good opportunity that like big companies are very interesting to acquire your innovative technologies and services. So this is a trend. You can have an opportunity. And here is one thing that the whatever the future investment and then what can be adopted in the industry. So you can look at it in the later. And another thing actually that I'm also interested now is I'm also very expertise in sustainability in ESG. And recently I'm focused on that like what kind of like a metaverse will be joined with the like ESG and sustainability matters. And then recently I opportunity to have give a talk about the like impact investing in the metaverse. So that what is matter because we care about the climate change and we care about the environment and we care about the society. So actually you want to care about whatever you to generate innovation, generate a new metaverse or service. We didn't care about whether it can be sustainable, whether it can be responsible. And there are some opportunity like not just the traditional venture capital. If you're working in this space and there is like some other capital they call impact investing capital, they will ready to invest to your innovation. And then you need to talk about NFT, right? Because but the one thing that you have in mind actually that I also like cover several in my patent application. NFT have not just for like representing like a digital art. NFT is a representation of your digital value. So whatever you have a value, you'll be represented by NFT. So NFT can be like represent your like digital art, but also representing whatever your value. So there is a unlimited potential. You can use this NFT integrate with the Web3 and the metaverse. And then one thing that you have in mind that NFT have some limitation of their ownership. So whatever you do, you need to like think about that. What actually though you are transferring the right. So there is a intellectual property ownership right. So whatever you talk about NFT, you need to care about what like a right you have over this NFT. This actually that we covered this topic many times. And unfortunately, we have an expert in this field today. So we'll talk about the NFT. And also like the recent trend is like late Web3. We have a new like finance system we call decentralized financing DeFi. And then this DeFi will be integrated NFT usually under the like metaverse we call MetaFi. So MetaFi means the metaverse application of the NFT and DeFi like integration. So you have in mind that whenever you design your metaverse world economic system, and then this kind of like NFT and DeFi is available for you, so you can have a creative idea. That's also the current topic to cover this one. And then economic system, this is one example that I also designing this kind of thing is that in the virtual space, you will have like a new type of the economic system, commerce system is a virtual commerce system, but also recent trend is for example, real estate and then like automotive and then other things that they want to like integrate with a physical thing. So usually they call physical. So they want not only the purely virtual, they want to integrate the real space with the virtual space through the physical. So you can think about in the economic system, actually you close your like a commerce system. So this is one example, but there are many different ways you're looking at this kind of the metaverse economic system, and then you will see the many type of use cases of this kind of application. And then unfortunately we have one speaker of this related topic, so we can hear about that. And then also like a recent trend is that you have a lot of like virtual stores, especially I'm interesting is this kind of the virtual store and virtual retail, virtual fashion is to like they provide the sustainability. So through like a virtual way to like generating your clothes and then sell through the like a clothes, and then you can estimate what kind of the demand side of the clothes, and then so actually you reduce your whatever you don't need to waste your like original fabric or don't waste like overproduce your product. Through this process actually you save your water, save you like for example resources, you save you like electricity, so less produce like the carbon emission, and also like you have like a life cycle management of your products, so you can have a less produce waste, and then you can manage your product as a sustainable product. We call like a circular economy. So this is one topic, so you can think about it. So we cover this kind of what kind of like sustainability with the metaverse, and then we care about like for example in the NFT minting means that you, for example, Ethereum based NFT means that you need to like you need to use a lot of the electricity, means that like generate a lot of carbon emission. So we need to care about it. This is a topic actually. The recently I'm really have a heavily, like a research in this field. And another thing is that, for example, Meta invested their money like how we build a responsible, how we make like for example is like inclusive, like justice and the ethnical, and then and especially the fortunately we have like a expert in this, especially Kimberly. He has a lot of expertise in this area, and then she shared with me a lot of the like a new insight about this. So yeah, it's wonderful. We have her, so he will cover this kind of what kind of responsible like a metaverse we can implement. And this is a topic actually the Aditya and then me and then other people are interesting, and also like we covered this kind of the fashion industry is one typical example that the perfectly match with. This is the one industry perfectly match with the metaverse, Web3, NFT, and then also like for example like sustainability. And so this is one actually. The recently I've been to South Korea, and then I talk with some of the like company, and then I join them, and then I have them to produce like new business model, and then how they actually to make this sustainable. So this is one, like for example, in the fashion industry, we have like a value chain, and then through the value chain, for example, you can heard about the New York fashion show, the like Metaverse fashion show. Actually, if you go to fashion show, designer is sketchy, and then you can digitalize, and you can make a digital fashion to like a metaverse fashion, and then you can have a, like not only in the physical space, you can have a metaverse fashion show, and then we are developing like a DAO and the Web3 based like community, and then you can think about it. The global market is very huge. It's a very like lucrative market, but also that they are very anti ESG and circular economy. So they are like a huge generate carbon. A lot of the problem in the supply chain. There are a lot of the like a problem with like a social aspect of like, for example, like using the child labor or something like that. Also like for example, waste a lot of the like resources, and generate like a lot of the like cross like generate in the after that. So this is a good topic that also like for example we can have opportunity investing. So we are building up this kind of pure cycle of the pure ecosystem of this fashion industry, and then we know about the pain point. And so we not just the only the real like a business model, we can integrate with virtual business model, and then also like provide how do you generate your like metaverse fashion, and then also like how you can build up your actual like industries to the metaverse manufacturing, metaverse retail. So I also collaborate like a big like a system company in South Korea, like a Cisco. You can think about IBM type company in South Korea, build up this infrastructure. So this will be the fantastic topic in the future, that the integrating every aspect of the real space, and then like a metaverse space, and then you can talk about like a DAO type Web3, and then NFT and blockchain and supply chain visibility, and then even the like sustainability. So this is one will be I will share maybe in the future if I propose more. So I already covered all aspects of the webinar and event I did this year, and then without any delay, okay, I will start my sharing. So we will start. Let's show that who is the Akina. Are you there?
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hi. So he is wonderful because actually he can cover every aspect, but especially he's a NFT and Web3 and also like responsible, and then he is one of the global leader in the he is a cover like you're the woman star like a Metaverse something like I don't forgot about the correct name, but he is a reader, the woman reader in the forming. So it's it's like an inclusive. Akina, you're mute now. Could you unmute?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so you can start now. Yep.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you, Alex. I'm actually part of a lot of our Star Women here. Hi, Kimberly. Our Star Women NFT Club and DAO. We are an investment DAO made of 80% women entrepreneurs, people who wants to be in the Web3 space, 20% men who supports women in this space. So you guys are welcome to reach out to me and Kimberly if you're interested in joining us. We have a lot of amazing people there, and there's so many experts in a group. The first time I met Alex was through one of our ASW leader, also too, Sharad. He has his own company, and then that's where I met Alex, and Alex immediately invited me to join his webinar to talk about investment in the Web3 space, you know. So I share my view because I help build our, I'm with a real estate conglomerate. Real estate conglomerates are very old school. If you don't know them, they're very old school. So they're still trying to pass out memo and make sure our executive signs the memo to say that they read the memo. So they don't trust email. So you can kind of see. And if you're talking to them about investments in the Web2 space, things that artificial intelligence, drones, robots, you know, sharing economy, they know that. They're learning about that. They can accept that. But when you're asking these investors to invest in like Metaverse and NFTs, they think that you're crazy, right? So, and that's the mindset of a lot of investors in the space. A lot of VCs right now in the world. Let's not talk about crypto winter yet. I'm sure you guys all like itchy asking me, oh, what are they doing in the whip to crypto? We can talk about that later. So like trying to explain the evolution of mindsets of investors, right? A lot of VCs and investors in the Web2 space, the smart one, the ones that are really a bit more younger or more daring and more has foresight about the future, will pivot the whole fund and stop investing in Web2 and move strictly just invest in Web3. Now, why are they doing that? Why so crazy? Why so drastic? Because this is their basic logic, right? This is one of the logic. I'm not saying all of them, things like that, but one of the fundamental logic is this. Normally, when we invest in a Web2 startup from seed round, pre-A, A, Series B, C, it takes you about at least 5 to 6 years for you to actually be worth something to sell it off and then go public or exit, right? So they're thinking, if I'm going to invest my money into a company that takes 5, 6 years to reach a certain place where I exit, if Web3 comes in and disrupt the market that my Web2 companies are in, then my investment is gone. Now, as an investor, either if you're not an investor, that's fine. If you're a startup founder or you work in a startup, you got to think like them now, right? Are you developing in a startup that is in a Web2 space that can conflict or get killed by a Web3 new type of business model tech? Okay, because in 3 to 5, 6, 7 years, what we're seeing now in the Web3 space will be more advanced, right? Will be much better and much bigger than what it is today. So you might not survive. So think about that. So that's what their logic, one of the fundamental logic they see. So they're switching totally, stop investing in Web2, just going to Web3. I'm not saying all investors are like that. I'm saying there are some investors are like that, right? So, and for you to understand also is that a lot of investors who invest in startups, they look at each startups in two aspects: the horse and the jockey. I'm not sure how many of you guys are, you know, are race, you know, like fans and stuff like that, racehorse fans and stuff. So basically, they see ideas as horses and the jockey as the team, the founding team, not a person, but a team that can steer the ideas to fruition to another level, right? Because we understand that not every startup, when they start, will continue the way it is forever. It evolved, it pivots, it changed. If you look at Amazon, they sold books. Has anybody, when anyone invested in Amazon at that time, thought Amazon would be what it is today? Never. But they invested in the founder because they understand that he would pivot, he'd change the mindset, his thinking is amazing. He's betting on him that he will be able to lead and pivot the company as technology evolves, as demand and culture changes, right? So that's, investors will look at that. So if you're going to pitch to investors, if you're going to sell your ideas in the Web3 space, everybody's taking a chance, not on your idea, but on you. But make sure your idea has some leg to stand on. Number one is in your technology. You have deep tech, you have great skills, right? Great, execution in building up the technology, the minimum platform. The other thing is excellent selling skills, market, pitching what vision you want to build, selling what problem you're solving, and things that you really want to build, right? That has to be clearly defined. I meet a lot of founders, they get stuck in the technology and they can't present their ideas. And I have met founders who are excellent in bullshitting that, so excuse my French, selling their ideas, but they don't have the tech to support it. So a smart investor can actually see through that. So it's very important to understand that when you're building for the Web3 space, you gotta understand Web2 also. Sometimes it's easy to sell your pitch or an idea if you can equivocate to an existing Web2 technology already that exists, but in a decentralized manner or with crypto manner or with pay to earn manner or in a 3D immersive, a metaverse manner, right? Like one of the company I was mentoring for a hackathon, he built beautiful immersive retail store, one of the best I've seen, to replace 2D shopping e-commerce platform. And he keep pitching, he couldn't tell, and I keep pressuring him, what are you trying to sell? So he's finally, he said, I want to be the Wix of the metaverse for retail store. If I say that to you, immediately you get exactly what he's trying to build, right? You don't even have to explain. So that's one way of understanding Web2, how it relate to Web3, to use that to your advantage and pitch and sell to investors or build your ideas too, right? If you can't explain it in a word or two what you're building, you don't know what you're building, okay? This from an investment perspective. The other things I think I touched upon in Alex's second seminar I was invited to was talking about ESG, environment, social, and governance, and how do I see that, right? So, because I'm from the real estate space, I think a little bit more on that side because I do help bring in a lot of technology like drone, artificial intelligence, RPAs, IoT to help with, ESG in building management, right? Because we help ventilations, cutting energy, cutting oxygen, CO emission into the space. So these things are very typical and normal in what I do on my daily life. But when you think of Web3, it's a whole new mindset change. For example, people are saying like, well, what can you really do in ESG, especially if you're using Bitcoin? People have a misconception that every blockchain is on a Bitcoin platform, which is proof of stake, which uses a lot of energy, but they don't know that there's proof of work, for Bitcoin. And there's a lot of other chains that are working on to reduce the energy needed on the proof of stake platform, right? Even Ethereum's moving to the proof of stake. The merge is like the biggest thing right now. Everybody talks about and anticipate about that will reduce transition times and then costs and everything like that. So that misconception that using blockchain or crypto is unfriendly to environment is slowly going to be dissipated, right? So let's talk about environment. What can it do? And, what does it mean when we have the metaverse? How does that impact environment? One of the basic things that we learned through COVID, that when we are forced to do things online, we don't travel as much, right? So the metaverse doesn't mean like, and Zoom does the same thing, but what does the metaverse do? So the metaverse will allow us to feel a little bit more, how would I say, closer to our colleagues, right? That we can actually sit next to them and jump and dance with them or sing with them, whatever you want to do and party with them. have meetings with them in a coffee shop instead of just our face all looking at each other or not looking at each other, right? So it does reduce traveling time. It does reduce carbon dioxide through when you reduce of traveling time. It does not on car, but also airplane. So these things helps with our whole, net zero goal in the world. In that way, we can think about like, it does reduce and then help improve our environment in that way. So another thing I did mention is about social, right? And that is something that Kimberly is really big on. It's how we have to build an inclusive, equal society online. And that is important, right? So there is pros and cons. We're still very new in this space where Metaverse is well governed, well checked, to make sure that there is no harassment, no bullying in the Metaverse world. There is no detection for such things, right? So we have to hope that any company that's in that space of building that will put in extra care and governance and technology to detect people are swearing or doing illegal act digitally, right? So we do have this concern, but the Metaverse does allow us to become who we want to be. And I think recently someone just shared a video, and I forgot who it is. If someone remember, they can help me correct later on. It was a basic statement. He says that the Metaverse will bring people because what they can do in it, but they will keep on coming back, because I just heard this one, so I hope I get it right. But they will keep coming back because they can become who they are and want to be. So I think 80% that is going to be true. There'll be more to that when the Metaverse improve and the technology improve. I think what we need to understand is that the Metaverse is not only an environment where we can party and meet together. You have to see the Metaverse as a social tools that can use to do a lot more things when we get in there, right? So we have to understand that we're building this. It's not perfect yet, but it will be there. I predict that in the future, 5 to 10 years from now, majority of the website of all company will be a Metaverse. It doesn't need to be on a blockchain, you guys. The difference is that Metaverse can't operate without being on the blockchain. The blockchain just added another layer where you can do pay to earn, you can do crypto exchange, you can do NFTs and things like that. But a Metaverse is just a technology where it becomes more 3D immersive, allow us to provide more service, more inclusive, more interaction. And then I think a little more personalized interaction between us. So that will help us a lot. The last part is governance. And I did mention that, in the social part, that the best practices, age sensitivity, content sensitive, these things, cyberbullying has to be managed, has to be catered to when we build these things. I guess sooner or later, there will be an organization to police these things to make sure in the virtual world, we're still protected as if we're in the physical world, right? So I believe that from an ESG perspective, it's still very early on. I'm so glad there's so many advocates out there pushing for this in the Metaverse world to make sure this happens. So I think that's it from my side for a recap.
Thank you, Akina. Yeah, especially thank you because she's now in Hong Kong, so you can imagine what time actually is, right? So, yeah. But yeah, I'm very thankful to her because he attended as a speaker in my several webinars, and then because of the time, John matter, but he never asked about like some problem like this. So I really thankful for her, and then her fashion about the Metaverse, and then other aspects of digital transformation, Web3, all aspect of the innovation, investment. Right? I wonderful for that. Okay, thanks. And if you have any question to her, then you can leave a question in chat, and then you can keep talking with her, because if he can cover in every aspect, so you can ask her anything. So it's a hint. So don't hesitate to ask her. Okay, so next is Rajat. He's another fascinating guy. Like he has a lot of experience, actual implementation in Metaverse. So it's a good time to hear about is what his experience inside of the Metaverse implementation.
Hey, thanks, Alex, and thanks, Akina, for an amazing presentation. And Alex, it was as informative as I've ever been. So yeah, I'll stick to my last talk, which I did on like April 28th, I guess. It was about what brands can do. And of course, I'll start with what we have been doing in the brand space and metaverse, and then probably I'll take a little wholesome view of that. And I think that that's going to be good enough lens for you to see where the metaverse is going. So I'll quickly show my presentation here. So hope my screen is visible to all. And so this is version 1.1 because the one was the last time when I did this event, where I covered a lot of things, and then be some very interesting thing which you're gonna see for the first time. So yeah, this is where we were last time when we spoke. We were working with 100 plus brands and celebrities put together, and seven government agencies in India, particularly. Today we are 120 brands, 25 celebrities, and 15 government agencies in just last 2 months. So that shows the whole appetite about how there's a lot of uptake for metaverse or the race to be in the 3D space. And my pitch is very simple when I speak with the brands and the government. This is your ROI is not in terms of dollars today. Your ROI is in terms of building community. If you want to build your community, this is the time you have to start. This is the beginning of the new social era, where the creators economy and all these things will thrive. And if you want to go after Gen Z and Gen Alpha, this is the time you need to get started. And thankfully it's working, and we are working with not just the FMCG brands and all, we are working with age old big fours, and the banks, from Singapore, India, and all these places, and which again is like, we're reaching out to all different verticals and all different age groups also now, in fact, which is fascinating. So last time we talked about opening a screen, which finally opened. We started our Metaplex, which is cinema hall, which is 20 screen, sorry, go back. 20 screen Metaplex, which is using India's, one of the largest telecom operator, Airtel. They launched this in June. We are seeing 150,000 DAUs, which again is a pretty interesting number, seeing, like how metaverse is seen. Of course, in India, anything which we generally call ABCD philosophy, action, Bollywood, cricket, and devotion. This always works. So this actually captures Bollywood in general, and of course, a lot of action happens here. So this has become kind of social hangout place for a lot of people. We are planning to do a short film festival here. And the selected film will go to the Academy Award. This is the only Academy Award accredited event and happening inside only in Metaverse. Another thing is we are planning very upcoming AAA budgeted movie. We are doing the trailer launch here. So this is another interesting thing, which this age-old company from UK, GSK, Consumer Healthcare, they have this brand, which was celebrating its 50th year in this country, and they wanted to do, stand-up comedy show, which is world's first stand-up comedy show inside a metaverse, and we saw 9 million people, about 9 million people there in that particular event. Other than that, we sold 7 land parcels, roughly around 23 virtual acre, which is our measure for the land which we sell, and GSK being one which claims inside our metaverse. So these were some of the events which we are doing. There's a first music reality show, something like American Idol, happening inside metaverse only. The stand-up comedy show happened, and a fashion show is happening in the month of August, with the two of one of the biggest celebrities as the showstopper, and some quick snippets of the things we did and doing right now. So this is the trailer launch of You Know What. And this is the GSK property. So it was the stand-up comedy show. And this is the music reality show. Okay, so now this is my story, and it will keep coming back, of course. I would like to touch upon other success stories. Sunsilk, we cannot omit it out because Sunsilk launched in Roblox, and what a great story that is. 21 million, plays so far within a month. More than Nike Land, which had been around for like quite some time. So this shows the sudden surge in consumption. So something happened, news came out, people just jumped into the opportunity. They're already seeing about 3,000 DAUs, with and having a peak concurrent user of 15.5, it's 15,000, peak concurrent users. So this and this is just females, like how they are, marketing it is like, uh, gender specific, they're keeping it like women centric kind of thing. And still, if you see, and if we just consider the brands going like completely all round, we can see and imagine the impact which any brand will have, and is already having, and we have done it, in our cases. Another success story, Volvo XC40, they literally canceled their physical world launch and did the launch only in Metaverse, the EV. And it happened just yesterday, actually, so absolutely, new stuff. And so even the premium cars and all those things, they're understanding, how far they can go with Metaverse, especially because the things you can do in Metaverse is like very much impossible to do in the real life. And at the same time, the impact, the usability, and other things are far higher. And we'll talk about it. Here we are actually crossing the Gen Z bar. So we are working with a Dubai-based perfume company which sells their perfume at $1.3 million. So of course we are not talking about Gen Z here. We're definitely talking about a little higher age group. And if they are taking Metaverse so seriously and going about it, I'm pretty sure that there is, this just story needed to be told probably correctly, as Akina told, like you need to know exactly what you're selling. So it's exactly who you are selling to. So I think this is working out really well, because things which cannot be seen or touched, and you still want to sell it, Amazon and other places are great, but I think Metaverse is a better place, because you can tell the story behind the brand. You can talk about why this makes sense over the other things and stuff like that. And a few things, which again we are doing: hospitals, bank, big fours. So on the right you see a bank, which probably your guess is as good as mine. That is a big, huge bank working with Party Night right now to bring banking and onboarding KYC into Metaverse as a first trial, and see everything else how it shapes up. One of the hospital in my city entered Metaverse already and doing first level of consulting the patients and all those. Um, Remember, I talked about Metaverse being the new internet, and we keep saying it's the next internet. But we are honored to be part of this movement now, because HTC has launched its first Metaverse smartphone, and we are working with them on multiple things. Of course, crypto NFT things which are visible, but there's a lot of things which are being done behind the scene. And we are a small part of this whole thing, but what we are happy about is something what we were talking about is already happening. So we were never talking about like it's going to happen in 2022. We were thinking 23, 24. But the thing is that the time is moving faster than we could have imagined, especially in Metaverse, in the adoption of Metaverse in general. And since I was talking about cars, I think I have my time is over, but I'm using the clocks, but still I'll try and show this thing. So this is our web browser based solution, Metaverse, the same thing. But what we are trying to highlight here is that you're not just social here. You you are with a lot of people, you are experiencing the same thing, but what you actually do is absolutely personal to you. Like you know changing the colors, changing the rims, and changing every single part of the vehicle. It's all personal to you, and then you can literally order the car from here, and that's pretty much of course Volvo didn't do to this extent, but you can explore the car, you can change every customization. So you are in a social setting, and this is what this is where Metaverse shines, because you can interact with people, you can hang out with them, you can get to know about the product, you can discuss about the product, you can see the same thing and stuff, but still your experience is as personal as it can be. So this is absolutely, which is absolutely impossible in the real world again, right? This is something which we are highlighting a lot. Another thing which is very personal to us, but at the same time, it will matter a lot to the overall Metaverse community, that we are building our own Metaverse specific analytics tool, because there is so much to be captured which cannot be captured using the existing all the analytics tool what we have figured out. We tried everything which was there in the market, but we wanted to actually give a lot more data to our brands who we are working with, and especially when you are working with such big brands like Pepsi's and all those, the expectation to return back, and the onus is on us to make them convinced about the brand and why their brand should be there in our Metaverse, and what benefits they can get. And that's something we figured that having the right analytics will definitely help them out to understand that. So I think this is in last 2-3 months, this is what I saw in and around brands, and in and around what we have been doing, and at the same time our friends in other metaverses were working on. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything
I think that's fantastic implementations. And then good
Thank
to
you.
hear about like a Metaverse enabled smartphone. Oh, fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah, finally in the mainstream, everybody has a smartphone, and then you can experience in smartphone. Yeah,
This is just a start.
Yeah, just starting, but it's a fantastic. And you know that starting from Akina in Hong Kong and Rajat in India, right? You can think about we are in the in the global, like in turning your like a global growth from the Hong Kong to India. And next one is another India is also expert in implementation. So Aditya, so could you talk about your experience? And in particular, he is very expertise in the fashion industry, and also like I heard about you recently to work with like a global fashion Metaverse fashion council, and then also like a Metaverse like a standard organization. So please share your insight and experience.
Thank you very much, Alex, for having me here. And I like a lot of the members here was present in, I think, end of April, or was that May, and thoroughly enjoyed my experience. So I did join the Metaverse Fashion Council primarily because I felt that we don't have a standard today that talks about avatars. And just give me a second here. I'm just trying to share. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So the problem today is that even though everyone has an avatar, the way it's typically ported today is if everyone's on the same avatar system, and that's not really interportability. And I was trying to speak to the standards forum that can we have a standard that everyone agrees on, where we can take one avatar from one virtual world to another. And the same, one of the other reasons why I joined the Metaverse Fashion Council was because everyone's building something within their small little platform, but no one's really sharing. So, it was time that we all got together as a fraternity, shared, everyone's got a strength. Someone's got a strength in animation. I'm focusing on apps. I built the platform. Someone focuses on building fabrics and patterns. So, it was a great opportunity for all of us to work together. So good morning and good evening to everyone. I'm the founder of the app called Hologram, And it's a play on the word hologram, and it's your hologram. And the idea is that everyone can generate their own democratic hologram or digital human. And I'm going to touch upon three things really. One is playable styling, one is immersive storytelling, and why is it important to have a phygital Web3 strategy, especially when you're looking at apparel. So we all know the problem today with 2D e-commerce, and today 3D e-commerce is table stakes today, and we know that seeing something in 3D gives you all perspectives. For example, if you look at this lady who's been shot in an action sequence, right, then the photograph continues to stay in this pose. There's no way you can change it around. You can only see what the perspective in which the photographer has taken it. And 3D does solve some of that, but we feel that is one of the problems that exists today. The other problem is that the fashion industry has been the outcome of the Industrial Revolution. It's something which has existed for about 200 years, and a lot of it there continues to be a big valley or a gap at least in terms of engagement, of consumer engagement, at least with the way Gen Z and Gen Alpha looks at how they think of ownership. And today brands continue to focus on the three big vectors, that is basically sales, loyalty, and new revenue. So they all their C-suite, their entire management focuses on these three verticals. So they look at new revenue either in terms of licensing. So if you have a very strong brand like a Nike or a Playboy, you want to make sure that logo goes on to multiple places, and how can you license that out? And in terms of loyalty, typically the way they do it is they go on churning the wheel again and again. So they keep sending you a message or a reminder. And that is something that is being tuned out today in the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because they don't recognize, receiving an email or a alert, a text message alert as a positive thing. It just, completely turns them off. And the same thing happens with sales. Today, if you were to fight for sales today, either you're fighting on where you stand on a search result or where you stand in an e-commerce portal. So, it's a zero-sum game, really, if you were to look at it. If you were to really look at driving sales, new revenue, and loyalty the old way, you're not really connecting with the consumer today, at least with the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha of today. Because, if you look at this slide here, if you see this girl, look at the confidence with which she's standing, it tells you the story of every young girl today who's going to school. She's got 10 close friends, or maybe 15 or 20, close friends in her neighborhood, and people who she connects with, but she's got 1,000 people on Facebook. She's got 1,500 people following her on Instagram. And today what happens in school is the cool kids are not the one who hang out with the most number of people in the lunchroom. The cool kids are the ones who have the longest, Instagram followers. And these are people who care about their followers. These are people who want to make sure that they're totally plugged into their follower network. And, if you look at it, what is it that they want to do as a mini influencer or a nano influencer? They really want to create valuable content that can connect with their followers. And this really comes with a sense of ownership. They truly own, and they want to believe in what they do. So, if you were to look at it from a brand's point of view, and you look at a fashion conscious consumer, he or she really wants to create content. So either she's tweeting about environmental aspect of it, and she's talking about, it being free of animal cruelty. And, this really comes from a sense of ownership. And how can you really build that sense of ownership before the product actually reaches you? How do you really build that concept of digital ownership? And how do you really engage with the brand experientially is something that's missing today. And this is actually a good thing, because we feel that consumers who are engaged and empowered to own actually land up influencing and creating brand advocacy. So the idea really is that brands don't have to see this as something that's totally disruptive. Brands just have to figure out a way, where is it that they need to be present to engage experientially with these consumers. If the consumers are not shopping today on Amazon, they're generally figuring out how to style themselves on Roblox. It's important to be there. It's important to have a game-like interface, because that is something that's turning them off more than having the best discount available on the multi-brand app that lets them shop. So, today 3D and the Metaverse really gives you that by, allowing you to, basically style on yourself with branded apparel. And, we can actually give you the sense of being able to wear and own something digitally, and you can actually wear it. So, you can be a virtual influencer. We give you an app today that lets you, turn off your camera and be a virtual influencer, and you can wear branded clothing. And, if you were to look at kids today, they're more plugged in. So a lot of them have their cameras off. They want to connect with their audiences the whole time, and they're either driving a Twitch stream. And we feel that this is so big in Asia today, the whole concept of VTubers, where these influencers are really reaching out to their consumers through a digital avatar. And we believe that giving them a tool to do this with their cameras off and being 24/7 connected with their audiences is something that's powerful. And because we give you this tool, we actually can help you define what is it that comes onto the body. So you'll end up having branded clothing and branded apparel on this virtual influencer. And then you realize that it's all about sharing. And the most powerful tool we've had is the concept of storytelling. So are you able to really share playful stories in AR and create social AR out there? So if we were to look at how we think you need to boost sales, it's really about creating an interface that increases your sense of engagement. So we think it comes from what we call playable commerce, and this is really about styling on yourself with branded apparel. And if we were to look at some of the principles, we really wanted it to be fun, intuitive, and responsive. And our yardstick for doing that would be typically the TikTok app today, which is very, very responsive. People tend to put it away even if it takes 2 seconds to respond because they think it's broken. So that's the level of low attention span that we're talking about our new consumer. And what we're talking about 2 years back, which was 3D commerce, which shows up on the left side, which is bringing the jacket in your home or spinning the jacket on screen. That's really table stakes. So even though you can do more, you can get a much better view of the jacket that you can get with a photograph. You can see all these 3D texture details that you don't get on a photograph. You see it in great detail, the way the light falls on it. But that is not what is really, connecting with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Gen Z and Gen Alpha really want that styling game. They want to have fun. They want to be able to style, mix and match the upperwear and bottomwear. So on the right side, what you see is what we call playable commerce. And we think it's all about, having fun, styling yourself with brands. On one side, you have the blue jacket with the gray pants, and then you have the green jacket with the gray pants. And this is really missing today in e-commerce. When you see that photograph, you really have to think a lot to visualize, hey, how would this white shirt look with blue jeans or with black pants? Because it was shot in that photograph and you can't change it around. And giving them that interface alone gives them a sense of interaction or gives them a sense of engagement that they tend to connect with and they tend to relate with the brand. So on the left, what we have is the typical 3D commerce view. So Jack, who's our main consumer here, he's put the gray shirt and he's put the black pants onto himself. You can see him in a mini trial room. You can spin all around, see how the clothing looks on him. And then Joe over here on the right side is really trying on different kinds of clothing onto his digital avatar. So he's got the red vest on. He wants to see how the green jacket looks on him. So he just spins over to the green jacket, applies it onto his avatar. Of course, you could see it with the same kind of close-up that you could see on the left side. But the minute that green jacket applies on, you see how different those black pants look compared to how they look. If you try putting on the gray t-shirt, it kind of is tight on the stomach and it gives you that simulation. And this also allows you to see what branded apparel looks like. So he's put on the FCB Barcelona soccer shirt on himself, and this also gives you the ability to customize the digital version of it. So even though the physical version won't have Jack's name written at the back, the digital version could have his name on the back because it's essentially pixels and digital goods that you have. And that makes the NFT way more valuable, when you have something which is personalized. So either you're playing around with the colors, something that Nike can't give you physically, but you have contributed to that design by playing around with it and then saving it as an NFT makes that NFT way more valuable to you. So, what we're really talking about is, giving them a gamified experience, being present on an interface where the next gen is going to be present. So you're already, reading into that kind of design sense that they're used to. Also creating the entire concept of aspirational commerce. So if I cannot afford a Gucci shirt, maybe if I buy a Gucci digital shirt, maybe I will be a little more loyal towards Gucci versus another brand if if it's an aspirational brand for you. That's how, life tends to work. You've seen it. You've seen that kind of shirt or clothing on someone who you admire, and then you want it on yourself. Instead, here you're just seeing it on your own avatar who you think could be of aspirational value on yourself. And then, of course, I talk about the style on me and share. So we have a feature that actually lets you, two friends put on clothing on themselves and they can share it. So, just to have fun here, one of them has put on a Halloween Spider-Man costume. The other one's put on, I think, Captain Marvel. And this is in real time, both the players are present in different parts of the world. They've beamed each other into a common AR space and they're doing the same moves, they're copying each other. But the crazy part is that they've shopped for something on themselves and they're sharing that design. And think about how, meaningful this is when two girls are shopping together for a party, or when a bride and the bridesmaid are looking at what their combinations are going to look at. They can actually style themselves and share themselves either in AR or in, immersive kind of experiences. And this really brings us to the immersive storytelling part. We know that storytelling has been one of the most powerful tools that we've had. And we've kind of given it to brand ambassadors. We've given it to, the celebrities out there. We've given it to influencers, but we haven't bothered about giving this to our consumers, the real people who wear our clothing, who can really speak the best for us. And, the idea really is to give them a tool that, allows them some kind of playful exploration so that they have fun. It's something different every time. It's kind of a game which gives a balance between ease and skill. So it's not too tough at the same time, it's not too boring. And of course, we build in a concept of rewards and levels so that, there's some fun element to it and there's some kind of competitive spirit to it. So, we're playing essentially with the ERC20 tokens. So every time they do something which the brand likes to reward them for, they keep getting a certain number of tokens. If they're a very loyal brand, they would get an ERC 721, which is typically an NFT. And of course, there are other tokens that I'm going to come to, but that's really the way in which we can use the play to earn or the where to earn in a way that the brand and it's meaningful to the consumer as well. So, if I talk about this slide here, the most important thing is that, we've moved away from, taking the jacket into your space into getting you into the game. So, the girl here is taking a selfie, although the avatar that I've shown is a male avatar, but, you kind of go into the game. And that's missing in some of the styling games today, even though they let you mix and match, but doesn't let you go into the space. And, these are the kind of experiences we can do with the immersive user-generated content. So we allow you to see yourself in 3D spaces, which are typically like Metaverse virtual worlds. We also allow you to pull in 360 images. So these could be 360 images of the consumer or the retail brand. So it could be a 360 meaningful 360 image of a mall. It could be of a stadium. It could be of a Disneyland or Eiffel Tower, something that the brand relates with. Or it could be something that you went out and you used your panoramic on your iPhone and took a 360 and you want to just show it on behind your avatar. And last, of course, is AR, which we all know. So, you can create fun content with AR. I love to place myself on a Starbucks coffee cup. I love to place myself on a laptop, on something, on a remote control, share it, send it to my grandma. And, she just thinks it's interesting when I do that. Coming back to the whole concept of immersive storytelling, it's important to realize that these immersions that we have, even though we talked about retail spaces, it's really much more than that. Because this is 3D, you can even go underwater, you can go out of space. It's really unlocking the power of imagination. And, one thing about stories is that it really transcends reality, even though right now it looks like these are cartoonish avatars. But if you remember the movie Up, or if you remember the movie Toy Story, it was really an emotional experience that you saw at the end of the movie. Even though your brain kept telling you this is a cartoon, you did feel those emotions. So the power of storytelling is really that even though it's an avatar, it's not you, it's a cartoon, but you do actually feel these emotions if those emotions are relating to your voice, because we give you lip-synced avatars, so you can record your voice over it. So when you're sending that voice greeting with the avatar, that's something meaningful, which is something that the person who you're sending it to is able to relate to you. So I'm just going to, play a quick 1-minute blur. I'm actually going to turn down the audio so I can talk to it. So basically, we talked about two people, Jack and Isabel, and they take a selfie of each other, and they can immediately spawn their, holograms or their holograms depending on what clothing they have. So Jack's in a retail space. Here she's looking at Pretty Little Thing. She's looking at the dress she likes, and there she sees herself on a mannequin. So it's like a virtual mannequin. She sees herself in. And the same happens with Jack, football jersey, and there he is inside a mannequin. He can see himself, and this is fully animation ready. He's able to share phygital NFTs that he's sharing with his friends, be able to do moves that he's not able to do, and this really unlocks the next level. And I spoke about customization, where the Bulls T-shirt has Jack written at the back. That's really the power of what we can do. This is Isabel dancing to her favorite music of Billie Eilish. She's worn her clothes. Jack is playing, K-pop videos, and now he's in Spider-Man gear. So it just really unlocks imagination to the next level. And it's not just kids who can have fun doing this. It is all of us who can really, have fun doing this with our friends. It'll be an experience that is meaningful to you and me. And why is it important to have a phygital strategy, even though most people talk about digital only clothing? It's important for the brand to not let one cannibalize the other. So, I don't think digital is going to eat physical completely, but the digital should be a twin where it represents something in the physical world. So either the digital gives you a discount on the physical, or when you buy the physical, you get the digital for free, and you can typically upsell all these experiences. You can have the signature on the T-shirt, you can have the digital pixels, with the name on it. And, of course, this helps in the environmental story as well, because when you go through a lot of digital gear, you're not consuming that much of physical resources. So, when you're thinking phygital and you're thinking NFTs, it's important to think about loyalty, engagement experiences, how it appeals to the provenance and circular economics. And I'm going to run through this real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time on the various tokens we have, but unlocking the value of what a reward point system can do today. If I have ERC tokens coming to my wallet, I can actually gift it to a family member. I can collect them as family members, pool them together, or I can actually sell it in the secondary market. So suddenly my points, which used to expire, which mean nothing to me, can actually convert to cash. I can take it to Uniswap and convert it to another currency. Similarly, we're talking about ERC 725, which is about you styling your avatar and being able to take your avatar out. So the first app that we're going to be building, which is the virtual influencer app, is going to be taking the 725 as a standard and pulling the 3D avatar from our platform and to create. So it's not that we've plugged in directly, we're using NFT as a portability. So if someone else wants to build another app and they want to take the ERC 725, they're welcome. The same thing happens with ERC 721 and ERC 20. You want to reward engagement. So, if someone's participating in a lot of events, you can give them a POAP that they can showcase on their wallets. If someone's participating in a lot of content surveys, you can use an equivalent of the Brave browser and the Brave token to kind of reward them. And, in the experiential ecosystem, I talk about ERC 721 and ERC 4709. The reason why I speak about ERC 4709, which is a rental standard, is basically sometimes you can give access to this token without giving ownership. So the brand can continue to be the owner. The user could be the consumer, and it could have no expiry date. So the brand really controls, and they can take it back and they can give it, or the brand can give you a regular ERC 721 where you become the owner and it's completely given to you and it's unlocked. So both experiences are possible depending on what kind of lock-in the brand wants to build in, what kind of loyalty the brand wants to build in. And this is where the whole concept of provenance comes in. And we know that because everything's on the immutable ledger, there's a certain amount of validity to it. And because every product, you can really look at its backstory in terms of what it does on the manufacturing side of it. You can really build a great secondary market. So if you think about Rolex watches, think about the Birkin bags, think about the Supreme t-shirts. These are products which have great secondary markets, but these secondary markets are arbitrarily formed. They're formed on private groups, but now the brand can actually participate in the secondary market. They can participate in the Discord, they can participate in the community, because they know that these products are really genuine because they have the entire provenance history. Second, for every time this product changes hands, the brand gets compensated, because that's how the smart contract is built, to make sure that the royalty is passed on to the brand. And of course, you can unlock the concept of auctions where people can competitively take part. So I'm actually going to cut the sound and I'm going to play this video in the background. And if anyone has any doubts or any questions, I mean, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. I think that is a great the way to show some how you can design the experience, like a lot of the new experience. Especially I'm fascinated about the multiple people can share the experience in the commerce. It cannot be provided in the traditional online commerce. So I think that's fantastic. Okay, so we are behind the time, so we are going to start in the detail. So he is now in Germany. So we moved from Asia to European country now. Okay, you can start now.
Okay, so thanks again for having me, and I will start where I left off over in March. So my topic was what is the best way to implement the metaverse, and I thought again the best way is to show you to give the presentation inside the metaverse, so you see everything is possible, even a space station. And let's start from the beginning. So it's a follow-up to the question, what is the best way to implement the metaverse? So personally, I spent not all, but most of the last 15 years in the metaverse already. So, and I'm currently using here a platform which happened when I had too much spare time. So I developed a virtual world platform running completely in the browser, which is now up and running for almost 9 years. And I'm using it here to demonstrate to you the possibilities. So what's possible in the metaverse already. From any device, you can connect to a smartphone, from a smartphone, a Chromebook, whatever you imagine. You just need a modern browser and you will be here. So I will not focus on technology, because I think we can make an assumption what's necessary to create the metaverse. And the metaverse must be readily available, accessible and affordable for everybody. So it means we have to create something which has some appeal to at least most of us, and can be reached very easily without the need for special hardware. Of course, we can have an enhanced experiences with VR, AR, but we should think about the millions or billions of people who probably want to be part of it and don't have the possibilities that we are used to. So technology, in my opinion, is just the foundation. So it means we have blockchain, NFT, the speakers before me already told you about it, which are great technologies, but these technologies alone don't create experiences. So in order to attract people, we have to give them something to enjoy. And my personal feeling is currently in some areas of the metaverse, we have experiences similar to the gold rush of 1848 in California. And people are crazy for NFTs and so on, but like 150 or 170 years ago, usually not the gold seekers were getting rich, but the people's selling shovels and thieves and some other things. So technology is a great foundation, but we only provide the tools for the citizens of the metaverse to really create things. And that's also something I choose this place to show you, because that's nothing which came out of my imagination. This is a space created by a user of our platform for all other users. So people can really be creative, only the sky is the limit. And we as technology companies, we simply provide the means, the tools for them to fulfill their imagination. I think this is the greatest thing we can provide. Of course, we will have some constraints and requirements. Like also it was said before, we need standards so that you can easily travel from one galaxy in the metaverse to another. We need an economy so people can buy things, people can sell things, people can make money. But everything is based on the creation of realistic and sustainable values. So of course, the value is always in the eye of the beholder, like with art. It's the same with NFTs. If somebody is willing to pay a certain amount of money, then that's the value of the corresponding asset. But for many people, we need more than just, let's say, the thrill of the hunt. We need incentives, activities. So we have to explain people, what can you do in the metaverse? So I always say, if I don't find a definition which my parents or my grandparents will understand, then I will have a problem. Because only we, I say it in a positive way, we nerds, we know what the metaverse is, and we have some attraction to it. But for everybody else, it's just, it remains a mystery. Also said before, yes, we need a form of governance and also security, which enables us to, to do what we want to do, to be what we want to do, to be who we are, what we want to be, but in a safe and user-friendly environment. And so just to see where we are at the moment, the evolution of the metaverse, the term and the thing, everything began 30 years ago with Neil Stephenson's novel Snow Crash. Then Linden Lab's Second Life came. Even before metaverse was a household term, I created my company to teach people about the metaverse and also allow educational institutions and companies to use the metaverse for business meetings, lectures, and so on. 2020, the next step, the decentralized virtual worlds arrived. 2021, Facebook renamed to Meta, Microsoft announced Mesh, NVIDIA announced the Omniverse. We are now 2022. Nobody exactly will know what happens. Technology will evolve. So again, technology will be the foundation, but it will be a changing foundation to provide us with experiences we probably cannot even imagine right now. So that's another thing I'm sure of. We are still at the very early stage of the metaverse, and to have it as a widespread environment where everybody will spend a certain amount of time, this is still years ahead. So for us, it's a good thing because maybe we are a little bit ahead of our time, but still we are we are preparing the way for the future generations inside the metaverse. So also to save some time and to sum it up. So that's in just a few sentences, my vision of how the metaverse should be implemented as a way, as it should be a sustainable and social metaverse for everyone, thriving on diversity and the activities of its citizens. So not we companies, we will not provide the activities, but we allow people to create things which have activities for single and multiple users at the same time. The metaverse has to be based on open standards, supporting interoperability. So for example, we have made the mistake maybe in the past to create again one version of avatars which is more or less proprietary, but in the meantime you now are also able to use avatars from Ready Player Me, which are already supported by about 3,000 different platforms. So there is a certain amount of interoperability. The focus should still be on people, not technology as a means, and it provides its inhabitants with a purpose. I cannot tell what people want to do in here, but everybody of our users is free to join our community meetings and tell us what she wants to do, and if it makes sense, we will adapt the platform accordingly to allow for new experiences. And finally, the metaverse is not built by a handful of big companies, but it should be built and expanded by its citizens for its citizens. And just to see what activities are possible, I can walk around a little bit here. So for entertainment, here you can host music parties with live DJs. And if you are a little bit old school like I am, you even are able to play in real life an online game of Pac-Man. I'm not good at it, but it can be fun to try to break the high score. So, okay, that's now everything from me. So thank you for your attention. And if you have questions, feel free to ask everything you want to know.
Thank you. So I think it's very important. Like, I think it is a principle of how you build the future metaverse. Like, it's sustainable, right, responsible, and then sociable. Like, so it's still early stage, but we are responsible as a global leaders in the metaverse space. So I think that Dieter shared a lot of the great insight of what is the principle to have in mind. Okay, so next will be Loïc. His expertise in sustainability and some of the for example, how we can use renewable energies. So Loïc, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you, Alex. And can Dieter just stop sharing screen so I can share my screen? That would be perfect. But first, as an introduction, so I think we
you
got
can simply capture the screen. But okay.
Can you just stop? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Dieter. So now I can share the screen. Perfect. Let me know when you can see the screen. But thanks a lot all for all your presentation before. It was first very inspiring to see all the use case, but also well, very energizing because we see that it's endless opportunity. And as Dieter just mentioned, it's just the beginning. And it's our duty now to evangelize the role of the metaverse in the future. Now, I want to go to another dimension that was introduced by Alex, and I will start my chrono also to make sure that I'm not exceeding time. It's the sustainability actually. And the reason has been actually mentioned by Aditya in the chat. It's actually the computation power, because we talked a lot about metaverse, the high quality, the improvement of the metaverse in terms of 3D model, in terms of, well, the blockchain layer that you use, and in the future also the AI model that will be linked to it. But that will consume a lot of computing power. Some say, it was on some article, so more than 1,000 more than 1,000 times the current computing power will be needed to comply with the metaverse needed. And we see that from the current energy crisis, and I don't know if you follow a bit in Europe, but we start back some coal plant even, which means that electricity consumption will produce CO2. And that will also be a huge challenge for metaverse in the future to be sustainable. And that's what we want to tackle with Metaverse. Just to give you an example, so there was the Metaverse Fashion Week in Decentraland. It was in the course of March, I think, more or less 100,000 participants. That is the same amount of energy that 100 households on a yearly basis. So this is a huge amount of energy. If you assume then that you will have millions of participants to some concert in the future, you can quickly grasp that the energy part of the metaverse will really soon be a challenge. And we do not have the time to solve it. We have only 3 years, according to some expert from the IPCC, to change the global warming issue. So how do we tackle that? And that's something I presented already in the past. I'm just repeating quickly myself. We have 3 options when it comes to decarbonization. The first one is, well, to pay for emitting CO2. That's a scheme that has been developed notably with the Kyoto Protocol, embedded in some country in Europe. It's called the ETS scheme, but you still produce CO2. And the best amount of CO2 is actually an amount of CO2 that is not produced. And that's what we want to tackle with connecting metaverse to renewable. There is another option that you see in the middle, which is removing CO2 with carbon offsetting, like planting tree. The big challenge with this option is that it's not really traceable. So it's an option that we can use if there is no renewable available, but it's much less traceable than just connecting directly to renewable. So how does that can work? Well, just to give you an idea, and that's also something I presented in the past, if you look at your household, you can actually, thanks to the metering of a windmill, so windmill, when it's producing energy, it will be metered. And thanks to the metering, connecting to your metering at home, we can make the connection. If the location of the windmill, of course, is not in the US while you are consuming in Europe. Now, as soon as you open your laptop, that's another story, because you will start triggering some data centers, some edge computing power all over the world. And that's where we want to come into play. Because a good thing is that worldwide, there is a scheme that is existing, which is called the Guarantee of Origin, that is actually generating a certificate each time a renewable is producing energy. And that's available in the US, that's available in Europe, in Asia, in South America as well. And so it's run by certified bodies, so it's trusted as well. The big issue is this, it's a PDF. So it's really old school traded as well. Like you need to be a trader for getting access to it. And it's generally for a huge amount because it's tailored for big companies, big industry. So what do we want to do in order to bring sustainability to Metaverse is that we want first to bring this into a programmable solution. So we create an NFT out of the PDF. Then the big question, and Aditya was mentioning that a lot of GPU are needed for its application. We will need to compute based on the infrastructure of specific use case, specific metaverse, how much energy will be consumed and where. And then you will extract from the certificate the exact amount of energy and create a new NFT. And this NFT then can be linked to any use case. It could be a wearable, it could be a ticket to enter a concert, it could be anything. So coming back to the solution, we start by creating an NFT out of the certificate. We compute, and then you have a table with the amount of energy and the country. And then you extract the exact amount of energy and create a new NFT out of it. Again, we talk here about renewable energy, not necessarily about carbon offsetting. And this will be applicable to any Web3 application and even Web2 decentralized application like streaming. But the first focus will be on NFT and Metaverse. And so you can think about many brands, many use cases. The one of the use cases, and Aditya talked a lot about it, that is quite important at the moment is the digital fashion, because fashion by design is really conscious about the sustainability. And so it's also one of the first industry to shift to Metaverse. So that's the first very eco-conscious target that we have at the moment. Now, we'll not talk about the numbers, but I just want to show in this chart that if you look at Web3 in general, the biggest amount of energy consumed will come from Metaverse. And certainly for people around the table is obvious, but not for everybody. It doesn't come from blockchain, because blockchain we will shift from to proof of stake, which is consuming much less energy, but it will come much more from, as Aditya was also mentioning, from the GPU for the 3D model, but also for the AI model that will consume energy on different data center, but also from the end user device and the networking. And I think we have a presentation on infrastructure afterwards that we could relate it to that. Now, what is the product that we want to propose is twofold. Is first, well, the sustainability as a product. So as I said, you create a certificate and then you embed that into wearable, you can embed that into a ticket or even to an event. Or sustainability as a code, and you embed that directly into your code and it will compute directly which amount of energy is needed and extract it and create the NFT automatically out of it. I can quickly show you then, because it might be a bit, seems complex like that, how it could look like. So so this is a mock-up of what we are developing, and we are on a few weeks from the official launch. Let's assume that you want to propose your green energy. You will connect with your wallet, which is actually a challenge at the moment because we need to get trader getting a wallet, but we start to having that. And then you upload your certificate, which is a PDF. You will get all the information about your certificate. So where the energy is coming from, where it was the issuer. The good thing with this certificate, you can even have the address of the windmill, and then you will sign it. And I think we touched with Aditya presentation about SSID. This is signed with a VC, so a verifiable credential, out of a decentralized identifier. So it's fully trusted because it's coming from directly the trading companies. Now, if you want to consume it, and we just exchange about Metaverse event, let's assume that you want to make an event in Decentraland. Well, you would have the opportunity to calculate, thanks to the calculator modules, then the amount of energy and the split between the countries. Then you will select the kind of energy that you want and which is the wearable, which is the outcome or the product that you want to link it to. So let's assume that you want to link it to a wearable. Then you will create a ticket that will include exactly this amount of energy in this wearable, and you generate it, and then you can use it as a ticket for your party, and you have the split of energy all around the world. So I will, as I said, there are different use cases, and two use cases that we focus on at the moment is decarbonizing of an NFT marketplace based on Ethereum. And another one is a Metaverse event, and there will be more information soon, but we are creating the first, in Decentraland, the first sustainable Metaverse event running on green electricity, where you will get an NFT drop, which will be decarbonized, we'll have DJs running, and when you will enter, you will be asked where you come from. And in this calculation, we will take into account Decentraland consumption and on top of end user device consumption. We have some partnership, I will not go into detail, but some that are quite important is actually the organizer of event. I think Rajat gave a lot of very good example on how corporate are using Metaverse. This is the kind of target also for this service, because now we can run Metaverse event, but also in a sustainable way. We can go further in the future. So as I say, sustainability as a code and as a product, I will not go into detail, but you can think about actually running a full Metaverse green. You can think about having a full NFT marketplace green. That's a kind of vertical where this product can evolve in the future. So that was it for me. I think I stick to my 10 minutes, it was a bit of pressure injection. And I'm available in the chat if you have any question.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, that's very important aspect because we also care about a lot of the other aspect of how to building the metaverse, but the sustainability, especially the metaverse requires huge computing resources we require, and then you provide a practical way actually to save the energy and how you build up in a metaverse. Because many of you are not expertise in ESG and sustainability, but that's a hard issue. So for example, like a carbon emission in the United States, the big company actually they should report mandatory for accounting reporting. So they need to reporting how they actually manage their carbon emission management and how they use the energy renewable energy associates. So I think that will be the fundamental building block maybe in the future, that how actually company use their energy to build up their metaverse. So I think that you provide a very guideline, and then how you actually implement to measure and manage your energy for sustainable building the sustainable metaverse. So thank you for your insight and actual implementation.
Thanks.
Okay, so next, Alex, you waited for a long time. Is another expert in actual implementation, especially in commerce space. So let's hear about his recent innovation. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and to all the other presenters. The presentation were amazing. So today I'll be talking about Spatialport, which is actually a platform for e-commerce that we started building more or less a year ago, and I'm glad today to present it to you. So let me just screen share here. All right. So before I get into the details of what we envision as the future of e-commerce, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I started working in the VR and AR field more or less 8 years ago. I started playing with the augmented reality back in the days with Google glasses, when they were still a prototype back then and not even available in Europe. You know, I'm from Italy, and it was kind of hard to get that device here in Europe. But since then, you know, I got in love with this technology, and from there, you know, a lot of projects have been delivered, and I worked with many large brands, multinational companies, including PwC, Freddie Mac, Habitat for Humanity, and many others, Philip Morris, Deloitte, and so on. So what I'm gonna present to you today, it's a solution that both I and my co-founder, Scott Fackert, we decided to bring to the world, because we believe that e-commerce should be, e-commerce in the metaverse should be democratized for a reasonable pricing, because we saw an exponential increase in the demand from small and medium companies, but the platforms that are out there right now don't allow small and medium retailers to afford to get into the metaverse. That's why we decided to start Spatialport. So what we actually are doing is enabling brands and creators to sell phygital products and collectible NFTs in a much more immersive way than classic Web2 e-commerce. So what allowed us to start this journey is, first of all, the introduction of disruptive technologies that allow today to improve the e-commerce experience as we all know it. So first of all, augmented reality. Also in the previous presentations, you could see the powerfulness of that medium, because people can try on themselves products that before were just a flat image. So we believe this is a pillar of the future e-commerce experiences. Then as well, 3D and VR, you know, we're here at the Metaverse company, and it's all about 3D. The metaverse, in my opinion, is an evolution, an organic evolution of what computing power has been, you know, in the past. And it's just a much more intuitive and interactive way to interact with digital experiences. So definitely another pillar for the future of commerce. Then AI, we all know the powerfulness of AI. AI can help understand consumer behavior and also tailor e-commerce experiences based on their patterns. So the experience inside a 3D shopping mall can be completely unique and customized based on the user profile, their behavior, their tastes, and so on. And last but not least, blockchain. Blockchain, we all know that in commerce can have various uses, and among them also keeping track of where the products are coming from, and being sure also the authenticity of the assets. Now, what Spatialport aims to do is to be a much more immersive e-commerce experience with high graphical quality that detaches from the, let's say, platforms that are out there today. For example, you know, the main platform, Decentraland, Sandbox, and all the others, because what we saw was a poor graphical quality and also a compatibility just with PCs sometimes, and not a flow, not a good flow for the experiences, because it's laggy and things like that. So we said, well, we should create something that works first on smartphone, because smartphones is what people have, where the majority of consumers are at the moment. And that's why we thought about creating a platform that is mobile centric. So our platform is an app, and it works first on mobile, but it's also compatible with PCs, tablet, and in the future, virtual reality. Another difference from what's out there is the high graphical quality that is not based on streaming. We all know that today we can, even run very detailed and high consuming power games on the cloud, and then just stream the content on our devices. But that's very expensive. And so again, it goes against our objective to make it affordable for retailers to enter into this market. Another important feature is the compatibility with different CMSs that are out there. For example, Shopify, Magento, and others. Why? Because we don't believe that in the future there is going to be just metaverses for e-commerce. There will always be a Web2 flat pages to buy products, because it's just a different medium that is more compatible with different use cases. For example, if I have time to spend and I want to have a much more immersive experiences and I have time to spend, I would go in the metaverse. But if I need to buy groceries, for example, I would still go on Web2 because it's quicker, and that's and being immersed and in contact with a brand, that's not my objective. So the inventory and all the information that are today on the e-commerce websites should be always connected to what's displayed in the metaverse. And a way to do it is to be compatible and connected to CMS APIs of our clients. Then last but not least, affordability. Our pricing starts at $5K for 25 products. And this comes because again, we want everybody to be able to enter into this space. And this is just the first step, because we don't have a configurator, but we have templates that we use and we configure for our clients. But the idea is to move toward a configurator, no code, so everybody without coding skills can customize their own 3D space and sell their products. Now, how it works, our platform, how can you enter in the metaverse if you're selling products? So basically, you start working with us to customize your store environment by selecting colors, by choosing the assets to display, for example, materials, videos, and things like that. And then what we need to have is the list of products that are sold. If there is already a website, or if there isn't, we just need to know the list of products. And in case there is a website, we just need to connect to the CMS APIs to grasp all the information from those websites. And then there is also another friction to enter in the metaverse, because we all have pictures of our products, but not everybody have a 3D model of the product. So we help our clients in doing that. Starting from images, we can recreate any type of product, or if the client has 3D models, we can optimize them to make them compatible with e-commerce experiences on mobile, because they need to be of a lower, let's say, a dimension than usual 3D models. Then we're ready to go, and the store is ready to be deployed on our platform. So let me just stop the screen sharing on the PC and show you a live demo of the app which I think it's better than describing it. So this is our alpha application that it was just released a couple of weeks ago. So we are still in development, and we aim to launch this by the end of September. What you see right now is a fully immersive city. It seems a little bit laggy while I'm streaming, but I can assure you guys this is super fluent on my phone right now. And what you see is sort of shopping mall where you have these buildings all around that will be populated by different brands. And the idea is that there will be both art in this space, but as well products that can be both digital or just real. And the cool part about it is that with products, you can actually interact with them. This is not possible on other platforms today. So you can click on a product and have the information about it. So like title, description, reviews, and the size. And the cool part about it is the conjunction of virtual reality with augmented reality. And I played this a lot, and I think it's the most fun part, because if you click on a product, then you can actually try it on yourself. So from the camera, as you can see, you know, I was checking that that watch, and now I can boom, try it on myself. So bring it from the virtual world into the real world, if you can call it that way. So, and this can happen with any type of product related to fashion, and also to other products that can be displayed not on ourselves, but for example, on a table, or for paintings, for example, on walls. Let me just show you around here, because we have a store that we are currently, actually we are building various stores right now. Just a sec. Oh, there is actually a problem with, let me just restart it real quick. We are still in beta, so that's might be the reason. So what I want to show you guys is a store that we developed with a company called Above All, which is owned by Empire Records, one of the biggest record label for hip hop, R&B in the United States. So they're interested in entering in the metaverse, and so we're helping them to do so by opening their store. So what you see there, it's the building that we designed for Above All. When we work with clients, we design both the exterior environment as well as the interior. And what they do is basically urban clothing. And so you will see that there are also videos inside of just a sec, of their music. And it's super cool, because with the t-shirts, we are right now adding the augmented reality, so you can try it on yourself and test the product before buying it. So what you can see here is a fully customized store, with videos on the wall of the music that this brand is sponsoring. And then you have different products around that you can actually check out. And the other component that I just forget to talk about is the avatar. So our personal identity inside the shopping mall. And we are currently in talks with Ready Player Me, so to allow clothes to be bought physically, because you get them shipped at home, but also digitally, so you can wear them on your avatar. So every time you buy an asset, it's not just for your real life, but it's also for your digital life. And we know that Gen Alpha and Z spend most of their time online. And sometimes it's more important how they look like in the digital world rather than in the real world. And in this way, you can wear clothes, and then, you know, when you're tired of them, you can sell it to somebody else who can still wear them on their avatar. I guess my presentation is ended. It's all. Thank you very much, guys, for your attention. If you have any question, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, fantastic. I think that it is a great platform that actually disrupt the whole e-commerce area, especially for the fascinating, because if you have ever implementing this in the smartphone, it'll be very difficult. How it is difficult to implement actually because of this high resolution graphic required in 3D graphics. And then congratulations, on finally. Yeah, implement this one, right? It's fantastic.
Yes, we did a lot of improvements since last time, and yes, it's a challenge make an app work with that graphical quality on the phone. Moreover, it needs to be scalable. That's why we created a scalable backend that basically loads the assets when you enter into a new scene. So in this way, we can create multiple metaverses without having an application that is, I don't know, 2 or 3 or even more gigabytes of dimension, but we still keep it around 600 megabytes, and then it can scale as much as we want.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this kind of the fantastic news, right? Because that's one I would also want to learn a lot about, because especially the fashion, like e-commerce, that's very important factor to provide a highly visualized to looks like you feel touchy, you feel like wearing, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk later. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's supposed to be Jim, but I need your favor, another, because you did it before one time, but because dog is behind the time and he is a time critical matter to take care of it, so he wanna go first to before you. So could you? Okay, thank you. You're really generous about it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate that. Is my voice quality okay?
Oh yeah, very good. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, just real quick. So let me do this real quick. Sorry. Anyway, I'm having trouble. Let me stop sharing for a second. Are you still there? Oops.
Yeah, I think that you're still in screen sharing.
Yeah, I am. It's frozen. So I'll get going. Start as long as you can see me. I don't know. Maybe actually, if you can have the next person speak, and then I'll come in after his talk. Because it's not sharing. I'm trying to stop sharing. It's not working. So Alex, can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go ahead, and I will take care of it.
Yeah. So go ahead and have the other person present, because my screen froze. I may have to rejoin.
Alex, should I go ahead?
Oh yeah, you can go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for inviting me again. And I've had a great time in your presentations before and your webinars, and sort of looking back, I think, the industry changes so much just month to month. And, with the sort of the crypto winter perspective that people have had for the last few months, I think that it's a great opportunity to sort of distill, all these different trends that have been playing out, especially on the entertainment and gaming side of Web3, which is what we focus on. And for those who haven't heard our talks before, we're doing sort of a mobile game that ties in AR and VR in a sort of a Unity built metaverse that we have that's an abstract metaverse, and combines that with where the user is now, and sort of like a role-playing game that both of which we're integrating with NFTs, and we just recently started to build out on Polygon. So there's lots to talk about, and I think when you look back at trends and like some of our previous talks here, I think one of the most interesting things on the gaming side is, what is the purpose of a game that you're building, especially one that, potentially it's either built for blockchain or, is blockchain enabled. And in the last year after Axie Infinity, everything began to focus on the play to earn model and the mechanics of that, and the tokenization and the economics of it, sort of looking at gaming from that one perspective. And I think what's most interesting is, in the last few months, people have really started to focus not so much on play to earn, but play and earn, which I think, rightfully restores the purpose of gaming, which is, very different from grinding at a job to make money, or, going to a casino to gamble and make money. I think that, it restores the narrative side, it restores the actual experience that you're having, and puts that first and foremost, and then ties in, different ways that you can, create smart contracts that create a community around it, that give you certain roles that perhaps change over time, that have springing value. And I think that's much more compatible with what most people think of as, the reasons why you would play a game in the first place. In terms of, popular AAA games and, Fortnite, Zelda, everything that, Call of Duty, there's an element of sort of experience and escapism and skill that you have that wasn't really present in the early play to earn games. They were sort of fun to play because you could make money, and fun to play because, they were basically commoditized. So if you were lucky enough to be participating, you had probably put a fair amount of money into it. And, as you look to the next evolution of gaming, I think that it really has to be much larger than that. I was at Consensus in Texas a couple months ago, and someone pointed out in one of the conference talks that the number of people at Consensus outnumbered the people in Decentraland and Sandbox and all the top, experiences in the metaverse at that time. And I think that that's a real problem, because so many of those games were built for the number that people throw around is like 1,000 whales that had crypto to burn and wanted to put it to use. And that's very different from your average 18-year-old who's waiting for the bus or on their lunch break at work and doesn't have a whole lot of money and wants to have an experience and a game and something fun that they can perhaps do with their friends as a multiplayer experience and talk about and share on social media and go on Twitch. That's a very different sort of, escapism from your day than the play to earn world, basically, where you're sort of grinding for dollars and performing tasks to make money. That's too much like people's everyday, like the rest of their day, like that's where they, go to work and they perform tasks and they make money. It's not so much fun to do that in a gaming context. And I think that's like, in the past 6 months, that's the most interesting change and development that I've seen, at all these conferences and in terms of other projects that are being built and funded, is that you really have to have something that's inherently fun before you integrate it with blockchain to make it scalable and sustainable. And so I think that's one major trend, which is positive, and where, the crypto winter sort of might be a good thing to sort of distill some of these ideas more and focus on the projects that need to get built or that should be built. Secondly, I wanted to sort of touch on something I talked about before, which is when you're talking about sort of spatial virtual worlds and world building, there's two competing, I don't know if they're competing, but they're two separate, distinct reasons why you would have a virtual world. One is sort of like literal VR world, you know, so like Google Street Maps, or, you know, virtual real estate and virtual tours of actual spaces where you want to, where I'm here, but all of a sudden I want to be, you know, experiencing a different place literally on my phone and be able to interact with it and to see what it's like to walk around there. The second spatial virtual world is, you know, more in the entertainment and gaming side, is a fantasy world. So you don't want it to be exactly like your world, you know, and you don't want it to be an exact, you know, overlay of your everyday life. You know, you don't want to be in Google Street Maps and be bombarded with ads and, you know, different brands that are just sort of placed there, because that's not inherently fun, you know. And I think when you look at some of those experiences that got built 4 or 5 years ago on the, you know, Web 2 side, the immersive web, you know, before all the metaverse developments, and, you know, I think that some of those literal experiences that CNN and all the news companies like, you know, New York Times, all of the web VR sort of 360 videos and things like that, they were way too literal to be worthwhile. And I think that that was something that was missed originally, that people assumed that you would want to experience something literally in that, you know, span of time, when really it could just as easily be non-literal and abstract and, you know, immersive in a different way that sort of leverages the potential, you know, to sort of use metaphors and to use abstraction as opposed to literal. Like the example I was using with a friend a couple of weeks ago is, if you have, you know, a main street in a town like I have here, and everyone probably does, if you remember the last time you walked down that street, you don't remember every person that you met there or that you saw walking with you, and you don't remember what all the doors, you know, look like to all the stores, because you probably had a purpose that you were walking down the street to meet someone. So you don't even notice the people that you're not there to meet, and you don't notice, you know, stores that aren't relevant to you, that you're not looking to shop in right now. Whereas if that were built out as an experience, the problem with the first iterations of that was that, you know, if you have a hotspot on every door and a designer is building it so that there's 10 hotspots walking down the street, if I'm experiencing that, I don't know whether I'm supposed to try all of them or whether I'm supposed to, you know, pick 1 or 2. And it's sort of, it's confusing because you're confronted with, you say, 10 options, whereas when you're in the real world, it's really like infinite options, but you're focused only on 1 or 2. So, you know, you're walking down the street, you could stop and talk to every person and say, hello, like, how are you? What's your name? But no one does that, you know, and in these sort of literal virtual experiences, you're sort of asked to do that, and your brain doesn't really, it sort of rejects it. If you see 10 or 20 spots that you can interact with, you don't know what order you're supposed to do them in. And there was a design put into it that you're not aware of what they were, you know, attempting to accomplish with it. So it doesn't have a designer's note that says just pick 1 or, you know, try them all. And I think that that's where, you know, it sort of short circuits your thinking when you're in these spatial worlds, unless it's built like an experience. And the example I always use is, you know, Main Street at Disney World. When you walk down the street, there's only a few stores, and they're fake doors, and they're like, you know, the apartments upstairs aren't real, and it's a set. And the whole purpose of that is not to spend time there and not go anywhere else, like, you know, at a shopping mall or something, but the whole purpose is to shuttle you from that point into the park and to take you from, you know, the real world into this Disney World, and to get your mind prepped for it. So it's sort of like the difference between those two is really critical for, I think, building, immersive experiences and virtual worlds, because in the Disney World example, you're meant to be shuttled through and to be taken deeper into a story, whereas in literal virtual worlds, you're meant to sort of, stay there and try things like you would at the shopping mall or something like that. And it's a different purpose from a narrative, design perspective, which I think is starting to, people are starting to see that, I think, and some of the better projects are starting to build that way. And that's where the fun comes in, is, it's actually an experience that's, immersive and it's fun. And, there's a sense of place where you're sort of, captivated by what you're seeing and not focused on where you are right now in the real world so much. So I think that's where our project, and, we try to tie in AR to get you into our virtual world, because AR is, I think, the best way to reach people in the here and now, whether they're on the couch or at the water cooler or, sitting at their desk or bored at a meeting. It's something that can be done very quickly with AR effects and, filters and lenses. And it's something that, younger audiences already have in their, in their daily life pre-metaverse. And I think that you start to see some of the interesting, ads and professionally designed lenses by, agencies and stuff, focus more on world AR, as it's known, where it actually flips the camera and starts to integrate with where you are right now and weave that into a storyline. So I think that that's another sort of trend, is how do you fit these experiences into someone's daily life? And I think that, with, say, movies, you're probably not going to go to a movie at 9 a.m. You just don't, it's like you say to your friends, maybe Friday night at 7, we'll go to the movies for 2 hours. So you make an appointment, and that's a fun thing to do, and you go there, or you go to a baseball game. Same thing with, traditional gaming, when it's tied to a console or a computer, it's, you have to make an appointment with yourself to actually go and do that. And, it could either be solitary, or you could be on Twitch with your friends, and, but there's a very specific activity and time of day and mindset for that it's relaxing, and it's, your 2 hours to play a game and escape from your daily life. With Metaverse and everything, people think of it that you would want to do that and spend, that hour or 2 hours, when you get home from work or something, and go into the Metaverse. I think that the better, easier way to integrate with people's lives is sort of in the short form hooks that come throughout your day, so it's more integrating with people's Web 2 social media lifestyle than it is competing with their, legacy gaming time. And I think that that's something that's important to see too, is that, when you create a spatial world and you understand the concept around it, you're introduced to it, you can pop in and out of it at various points during the day. And I think that that's where the opportunity is, on mobile at least, to actually make relevant brands and experiences that can easily integrate. When we were starting this project, we started an early iteration in Web 2 years ago, before the business model had evolved, and Web 3 provides so many more opportunities for funding interesting projects than Web 2 did, because Web 2 was all ad and click based. And it's a totally different, mindset when you're sort of triggering ads on websites and meant to check out, articles and listicles and all sorts of things in random succession. That's very different from, the purpose of Web 3, which is more like dwelling in an environment or a theme, and even like an abstract theme. And it's more like, you know, it's much more compatible with branding. I think that there's actually some feeling that you have or some vibe that you have from being in this experience that makes you happy or makes you, you know, excited or scared, or, you know, something that's more impactful than just sort of fleeting information of Web 2 that was all competing to get your attention. And that's sort of, you know, when you look at the purpose of, you know, and the mindset of these, you know, the better experiences, people want to spend time in there. It's not that it's like a chore, or that they have to learn something, or, you know, eat your vegetables, and, you know, that it has some functionality that, you know, like websites have, like this one teaches you this, and this one tells you the celebrity gossip, and this one tells you the sports news. It doesn't need to have those functions in the way Web 2 did. It's more like sort of like a meditative experience, almost like going to the beach. You know, I went to the beach a couple of weeks ago. It's like, you don't want all sorts of distractions while you're at the beach. You want to just sit there for hours and relax in the sun and hear the waves and maybe go in the water, but you don't need all sorts of, you know, constant activity and people selling you things and stuff like that. You wouldn't want that. And I think that's sort of the key difference between, you know, well-built immersive experiences or games and sort of ones that try to be too functional and too useful and too, you know, literal, is that, you know, you want your mind to be working at a slower speed, that you're basically just shutting out things that are distractions, and almost like a meditation or like a spa or something. That's what you want users to feel when you're in there, that would keep them there. And I think, you know, it has all sorts of opportunities, you know, and for the evolution from Web 2 to Web 3, I think is, you know, really amazing. And I think it has all sorts of potential for new experiences, but you have to sort of think of why the person is there and what is the function. And it has to be a fun or, you know, entertaining function that you're going for, as opposed to something that's too literal. But anyway, I'm not sure how much time I have left, but if there's any questions or anything, I could answer them now or at the end.
Yeah, I think that the audience can ask a question if they have now. If not, then leave a question in the chat. Anyway, because thanks, Jim, because he is already thoughtful, and then think about different insight about the Metaverse experience design. And then he actually gave a very important tip how to design Metaverse experience. Like, we need to think about everyday life, right? Because the Metaverse will be the part of our life in the future. So we need to think about it, how we experience in every day and how we reflect that experience in the Metaverse. So I think that that's valuable practical tip, right? To you design your Metaverse, right? Okay, thanks. Doc, are you ready now? Yeah.
Yeah, I am back. Sorry, I'll share my screen now. Hopefully everything will work. So can you see it?
Yes, finally. Yes.
Yeah. So let's see, 5. Okay, for some reason it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about building a sustainable metaverse infrastructure. My background is working at Motorola and Nokia for 33 years. And so we're going to be talking about this transition going from Web 2 to Web 3 and how we will work, learn, shop, and play in 2030. So Alvin Grayland talks about what is the metaverse. He talks about it being the internet plus 3D plus VR. I added, you know, this communication, 5G, 6G, 10G, Wi-Fi 7, cloud, AI, digital twins, you know, basically a whole bunch of things is what the metaverse is about. And so my focus is going to be about the network side and the communication side. So my expertise is around 5G, 6G. I've started in 1G at Motorola. You know, right now, actually this year, 2022 is when we'll get 1 billion people working in having 1G subscribers. And so the question is you know, and this will continue to grow. In fact, it's estimated that all the growth is really going to happen between 2025 and 2030. So we're just kind of getting started in the communication side. One of the projects I've worked on specifically around live, work, play, learn and play is using sustainable telecommunications so to minimize our CO2 emissions. So rather than having a patient having to travel 8 hours to a doctor, you have collaboration imaging, you have needle guidance where a patient could be using a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, and a cancer center could be doing the guidance of that using HoloLens 2. So I worked on a project with MetaView with a 10G. 10G is actually the Cable Labs project that are being worked on for this technology. So right now, this technology is clunky, in my opinion. You know, it weighs a pound. There's people who like it, but you know, it's still heavy. But you know, per Qualcomm, this technology will very quickly evolve, just like the smartphone did, just like the cell phone to the smartphone, and the smartphone, where basically everyone has a smartphone. That will be what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So, you know, how do we prepare for this? And, you know, as I work with, you know, nursing schools and other companies, you know, how do we prepare for this technology that's just about ready to happen? The big issue is, of course, CO2 gas emissions, and how do we have sustainability? Right now, telecommunication, the mobile industry, you know, the good news is we add $2 trillion of economic output to the world economy because of communications. The bad news is we use about 2 billion tons of CO2 emissions to do that, which is equivalent to Russia's annual emissions. But the good news is that by doing this, we actually reduce, people don't travel as much. And so we reduce the amount of CO2 emissions by a factor of 10. So the question is, can we grow the digital economy exponentially versus the physical economy to reduce our CO2 emissions? And that's what the challenges of my industry we're working on. So just as a comment, 2 people spending an hour on Zoom, like we're going to be spending, you know, about 3 hours here. These people, that's only 4 grams of CO2 gas emissions per hour, which is equivalent of driving 52 feet. That's versus like a 1 ton of per person of gas emissions for 3-day conference. So you know, how can we reduce our carbon footprint? Well, you do more immersive virtual conferences and less physical travel. And so that is where I think that we have a huge opportunity. The good news is we were reducing our CO2 gas emissions in the United States, though we have a lot more on a per person to go versus the rest of the world. The bad news is actually it's expected this decade, and if things don't change, that we're traveling more and we'll actually grow our CO2 gas emissions here in the United States. So you know, as noted before, you know, the amount of energy, if we keep things constant, will continue to grow and grow. Is expected that over the next 10 years that we're going to increase traffic growth by 27 times. But the good news there is that, like Nokia, Ericsson, and other companies have said that we're committed to reduce our emissions while growing. So we grow by a factor of 27 times, but we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50%. That's also needed because we're going to be introducing all these trillions of devices with 5G and then eventually 6G technology. SoftBank gave this slide that says by 2040, there'll be 10 trillion devices connected to the internet. So all these things connected to the internet, and those are just the things connected to the internet. Right now, 80 billion apparel items are manufactured every year. 5 to 10 trillion disposable things are connected. You have devices right now, I think it's like 27 billion microcontrollers and so forth. So all these things are being developed, and the question is, how do we minimize our carbon footprint about that? So my thesis is if we grow, again, building a sustainable metaverse, if we grow the physical economy by a factor of 2x, you know, we are going to grow our CO2 emissions, even if we're being more efficient. But if we grow all this metaverse, we can grow the digital economy by a factor of 10, and then also reduce our physical footprint. So, you know, 20 trillion objects by 2040, will they be physical or virtual? This is how one way I think we're going to be solving our CO2 gas emissions. So, you know, I worked in doing some consulting work for Brand Lab Fashions. And the fashion industry right now is responsible for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. 40% of clothes are never worn, so they're manufactured and they're thrown away. By the way, about the same for food. So if this continues, we're going to go from 10% annual emissions to 25% of annual emissions. So what we have to do is shift from a physical world to a digital world where it makes sense. So if we're going to get to net CO2 emissions, it's likely that in the next 20 years, we'll look back about traveling all over the world just to work in an office or to be at school, to be bored all day. If we're going to get to net CO2 gas emissions, we need to have more virtual objects and less physical objects. So can we do this? I believe the answer is yes. The cell phone industry, what we did is we went from, having PCs and desktop computers to where we have mobile phones that have a lower carbon footprint. And, we went in 2011 to 7% of the internet traffic was using, mobile phones to now over 50%. I think it was 56% just recently. So, this is, this great opportunity actually to lower our carbon footprints and get, using metaverse technology, the metaverse mindset. So, per my slide I have here is Edward Hubble said, equipped with 5 senses, man explores the world around him and calls that adventure science. So imagine the adventure of immersive technology as we transition from the smartphone age to the super sensation age of sight, smell, touch, taste that's indistinguishable from the physical world. That's where we, it's just as an enjoyable experience in the virtual world as in the physical world, where we can meet and have meaningful connections. So this is the world I'm working towards. I'm really excited about it. So, the metaverse is technology can decrease travel and decrease the physical, environment to build a more responsible and sustainable world. So with that, I thank you and looking forward to the other speakers.
Thank you. I think that that's very important point, that because now we need another stage of another layers of the infrastructure required, especially the network and the computing and data storage. But we also have in mind that they should be built in the sustainable, right? So we need to care about the environment and society. And then you point out the very important point, actually, how we can manage it and then how we can build it. So thank you for sharing your insight.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my final thought would be, rather than having an 80-inch television screen that big carbon footprint, use an 80-gram smart glasses that can give you functionality. So that's where I'm excited about over these next 3 to 5 years. And I think, for the people listening here, that's, their mindset, the metaverse mindset of how to have a more sustainable metaverse.
Thank you. Okay, so next is Kimberly. So Kimberly will share about not just for sustainable, but also maybe the responsible. So Kimberly,
hello, everybody. Yeah. Hi, Alex, and welcome back from your world tour. You've been spreading the gospel of the metaverse and Web3 all over the world the last 3 weeks. So
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah,
it's been awesome.
Finally, after the Columbus, to tour to Hong Kong, India, and then European country, and finally landed to an eastern part. I'm in Boston, you're in New York, right?
Well, it's been fun to watch you. Well, obviously, this is truly a global phenomenon. Nobody owns the metaverse, and everybody is racing to find their place in it. And I also want to thank all the speakers, the ones I've already listened to today, that I'm really inspired all over again. It was worth the review, and so many opportunities to collaborate across these perspectives as well. I'm going to share my screen, Alex.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah.
Okay, we're there. Okay, well, hello, everyone. My name is Kimberly King, and I've been a part of a couple of forums with Alex, but we didn't get to unpack the CBDC. So we'll have to come back to that one. So I'll focus on the one today where we talked about before, and it's still very much a hot topic, an important topic, is how do we co-create an ethical, equitable, and mindful metaverse? And what does that mean? So we've seen a lot of exciting applications today. People developing amazing avatar technologies, amazing environments, e-commerce, infrastructure. It's important for us to see, even in this sort of compilation that Alex has brought together, that we have people working on parts of this puzzle that are essential, that this is really a very multidimensional, multi-layered, multidisciplined task. So no one has any piece of that, and that's why it matters that we bring our pieces together. But as we do that, another infrastructure, undergirding, if you will, is how are we doing it amongst ourselves? Who is at the table and who is not at the table? And how do we make sure everybody's at the table? And what are we doing all this for? So for all of this activity, there must be some bigger whys and some bigger hows that make us be able to advance where we go as a people and as a world. And to do that practically, not just as something nice to say, but how are we co-creating that world? Well, my slide is not advanced. There we go. I'll go back, and if this one will come. I'm having a delay, Alex. Was anybody else doing that? Well, I'll skip that. I am with Human Tech. We skipped my slide, but you can find me at humantech.co. And as we're talking about where we're heading, I hear a lot of talk about metaverse is good or bad. What we're doing will help society. What we will doing will ruin society. It will ruin children. It will educate children. I start with the premise that technology is not good or evil in and of itself. It is all about how people choose to use it. And that's why we're looking at this today. Not sure why it's not advancing. Alex, I apologize. Okay, so as we look at the building blocks, and I'm going to go through them quickly, but the three components that we're looking at within building a responsible and sustainable Web3 and metaverse are ethics. Are we doing this in an equitable way and in a mindful way? And I won't unpack them too much, but there are definitely differences in each of these pieces and intentions. Ethical really encompasses our guiding principles. What are our rules and our boundaries? People are calling this the Wild Wild West. Well, even the Wild Wild West needs some rules and boundaries. What are our standards of operation? And what are the protections that we want here for individuals and for society as a whole? I can tell you that that is a major conversation across the world and a wide range of opinions about it. How are we being equitable? We all know in the future of work and in our Web 2 and just daily life, the conversation around diversity, equity, inclusion matters every day in our workspace. How are we bringing that into the metaverse? Or as you've already heard some previous speakers, it can become something where only the elite with the money to afford gear, the only ones who can afford to invest in NFTs or currencies. We don't want to build a world where we create even more separation than the one we have today. How are we going to ensure that? And how do we make that accessible, affordable, distributed, and fair? And then mindful is, for me, it's the overarching. What is purposeful, intentional, sustainable, and both does no harm, and if we do this right, contributes to good. So I want to take us back, not to my opinion, but there's a lot of surveys out there, and here's what some aggregate findings are. Over half of the adult public that's surveyed in multiple surveys nationally and globally, over half of the adult public has major concerns about the collection and misuse of personal data. In fact, that's a reason why many of them say they wouldn't enter the metaverse if they don't know they're safe, their data is safe. 2 in 5 have major concerns about bullying, safety, and sexual harassment. And other major concerns are impacts to our mental health and our well-being. Again, these come up in many surveys and they always rise to the top. This is a look at one of the surveys that bears out in a graphic what I just said. As you see, tracking and misuse of personal data is a big one. And then all of these other elements, including environmental impact. These are the things that people say they care about in the surveys. So when we look at how do we know that we're going to take care of these things, and can we trust the companies? There are leading companies today that are supposedly looking after both their interests and ours. And I wanted to give an example of the operating, the ethical operating and cultural operating principles of Meta. They published, when they announced Meta, they said this is also a good time for us to rethink and recommit to our principles and revise that. These are the 6 cultural operating principles that Meta states is its priorities. Move fast, focus on long-term impact, build awesome things, live in the future, be direct and respect your colleagues, and Meta, Metamates, and me. They put specific emphasis on Meta, Metamates, and me. Let's look at what that means. So sorry. We're having technical difficulties. Alex, I can't seem to make the controls work right.
Mm-hmm. Is this screen mode or?
It won't go backward.
Oh.
So once it was off, it won't go backwards.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're out.
So I'm not sure if what I should do is just talk about it from here or try to reboot some of it. I know that we're mindful of time.
I think that you can come back later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. Once it advanced, it won't let me go back.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so Elian, yeah, you can start now and then Kimberly come back. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Alex. Thanks for organizing this event. Super insightful and interesting. I'm going to keep my presentation short today. So I just wanted to tell all of you about what we are doing, advising clients on investment opportunities in the Web 3.0. So we've been investing some of our clients to invest in startups and just buy shares in some startups in the space. We've advised some clients to invest in cryptos, whether it's staking, arbitrage, gaming, etc. And the third line of investment, which is the fastest growing right now, as far as we are concerned, is advising our clients on investing in NFTs and having an NFT strategy. So some of our clients are brands, some of our clients are ultra high net worth individuals. So we have 2 types of clients when it comes to NFT advisory work. So I'm just going to go through it because I sort of feel like I have to, but what is an NFT? It's a non-fungible token. We all know that. So something that's not fungible would be your car, because it is an asset that cannot be substituted for the exact same other asset. But the gas you put in your car is fungible. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So it can be real estate, can be art, can be your vintage car, etc., etc. So how should we look at investing in NFTs? So of course, there's short-term, long-term strategies. Short-term, some of NFTs are quick cash grabs, and there are ways to make, a quick buck or two. Long-term investments. If you want to invest in NFTs, you need to look into IP rights and you need to look into the smart contract behind each NFT. Smart contracts, as far as I'm concerned, are probably the future of contracts in general in this world. So IP is very, very important when you look at investing in NFTs. You must read the smart contract from A to Z. That's super, super important. The other thing I would say is that a lot of people, by looking at the photos and the presentations we've had today, I can safely say lots of people of our age, so people over 30 years old globally, you meet lots of people who are skeptical about NFTs. Talk to anyone under 25, they all own NFTs or are about to buy an NFT. Not everybody buys an NFT from Beeple, which is worth $69 million, but everybody owns an NFT worth $50, $100, $20, something. So these days, youngsters, instead of going to get like a poster to decorate their flat or going to IKEA to buy something cheap to decorate their flat, they buy NFT and they build an NFT collection. So we've all heard about the NFT work, the most expensive NFT in the world, but NFTs are much more than this. NFTs are into the art world, but NFTs solve real problems in this world. They solve transparency and traceability issues. They solve content creators' revenues by generating commissions every time an NFT is being transacted. The original content creator has revenues for the rest of his life. So let's imagine Van Gogh would be living today. He would NFT one of his paintings and he would die very rich instead of dying very poor as one of the greatest painters of his generation. NFT solves another problem, which is database reliability. And it solves another problem, which is IP protection. Once I have minted an NFT for a piece of art or a collection that I own or anything I've created, the IP rights are protected forever because the date of the creation of the asset can never be deleted. The ownership chain can never be deleted either. So this is massive in the world of IP protection. Concrete applications in the world of art, we've just discussed one example, but in the world of luxury goods, if you think about it, like how do you know this secondhand watch you're buying is not fake? Well, if it has an NFT that was created by the brand originally, then you know it's not fake. So for a number of luxury goods, it just completely eliminates the fake sector and the gray markets. This is a massive, this is breakthrough news. In real estate, it's revolutionary as well. If you think about real estate in India, for example, and the lack of reliability of real estate registry and the records related to it, well, if every real estate property has an NFT, this is a game changer. Then it brings full transparency to every real estate transaction in the country. As far as governments are concerned, marriage records, inheritance, land ownership records, tax records, all of this could be recorded through NFTs, which will give each and every single one of our governments full transparency on what's happening in their country. So anyway, all of that being said, there are massive, massive investment opportunities in the NFT space these days, whether you want to mint your own NFTs, whether you want to protect your art collection, whether you want to rent your real estate property. Renting it through an NFT opens up to a whole new market of crypto owners who will be happy to pay you in Ethereum versus paying you in US dollars or euros or another currency. So whether you're an individual, a brand, or an asset manager, the opportunities into investment opportunities into NFTs are just massive, and this is only the beginning. So I think that's it for me for today. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aline. Yeah, she provided a practical tip that actually she gave a very important point when you think about NFT, especially the investment, and actually the what the NFT represent, what kind of the right you represent, right? Because so the when you're dealing with like transactions, actually you are actually the authority to transact the some ownership or the IP property, right, or something like that. So, but as I mentioned in my introduction, the NFT is enabling for the like forming the metaverse economic system, especially the creator economy and other aspects of the like the economic system they provide. So I think that the NFT is a really important point, the essential part of the metaverse we need to think about it. So thank you for sharing for the insight about the investing in the NFT earlier. Okay, so
Thank you, Alex.
yeah, so if you have a question, then you can ask a question in chat. So next will be Neeraj. Are you there?
I'm here, Alex.
Yeah, he is another fantastic guy. He understands every aspect of the metaverse, and then also is implementing actually for the all aspect of the metaverse, especially for the financial sectors and MetaFi. So let's hear from his insight.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for the opportunity. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So firstly, before I begin, I'm just so inspired listening to some of the speakers here. You know, metaverse is like this big jigsaw puzzle with lots of missing pieces and, you know, different dimensions to it. But I believe listening to these wonderful co-creators that, you know, we are in for an exciting ride. We're going to create something that's going to be the new way of experiential learning and trade and commerce and in the years ahead. So I'm really excited. So Lucrisma is a company that's building one of those pieces for this, you know, new type of internet, the Web3 world, the metaverse world. What we are building is a foundational layer which provides a unified identity with some financial metadata, and we're building some financial services on top of this foundational layer. So the foundational layer basically allows us to create a unique identity for our customers, attach the financial metadata, which is the KYC, AML, the KYT, the compliance and the audit trail, and then allows them to use this identity to aggregate their assets from wherever they are. The assets could be in the real world, for example, their mobile phone and their car. It could be in their Lucrisma wallet. It could be in their MetaMask. It could be a decentralized parcel of land, right? Because of the identity, we allow them to stitch these assets into a virtual portfolio and then use the aggregated power of this virtual portfolio to leverage our financial services, the lending, the borrowing, the mortgages, the ETFs, etc. So we all know metaverse is poised to explode, right? Some studies by the likes of Citi and Goldman Sachs have predicted that this metaverse economy it's probably going to have an exponential growth in the next 7-8 years, and probably would get to a 13 trillion mark. Some studies say 13 trillion, some 8, but it's regardless of which study you go by, it's going to have an exponential increase in the next few years, right? We've also done a lot of quantitative and qualitative research to see what kind of users would be using the metaverse and the economy that it brings, right? And obviously, there are certain constraints, and some of my fellow speakers today are trying to solve those constraints, but currently, the way to experience this new web is to wear Oculus-like devices or have those wrist contraptions, etc. But not everybody is going to do that, right? So for example, my father, who is in his 70s, I gave him a pair of Oculus devices to wear. He liked the experience for a few minutes, and after that, he was like, I'm not going to ever wear them again, right? So not everybody is going to be in the metaverse all their time going forward, right? So we did a lot of study to understand what kind of people will gravitate towards this market, towards this new web. And one of the things that we were keen to solve is people who choose to not sit in the metaverse with their Oculus device. How do we give them an opportunity to partake in the new investment opportunities and new economy that's opening up through the metaverse, and vice versa? People who are going to be in the metaverse for a long time, who'll spend hours every day in the metaverse, how do we give them the ability to still partake in the opportunities of the real world, right? How do they get a loan on their house if they want to buy a house or a car or a new phone, right? So vice versa, both ways. So we identified the core building blocks that are needed to build this metaverse. And there are some building blocks that you will see on the screen that are kind of legacy from the Web 2 world, but some that are being created just for this new world, right? So the AR, VR technologies, we heard Alex speak earlier, the property rights in this new world are going to be huge. And then the identity piece, which I touched on. So we identified some of these building blocks, and we came up with our core IP, our mission, which was to allow our customers to stay compliant while they partake in this new economy, while keeping compliant, build their identity, and then aggregate their assets. Like I said, aggregate their assets wherever they are, and then utilize these services. We are doing this for both B2C and B2B. So our APIs would be leveraged by the partners that choose to use our APIs to essentially use the KYC AML, the identity piece, and the entire the financial metadata that comes along with that. So we believe that we are gonna unlock a few use cases that are innovative. So to give you an example, we would allow people to use their, let's say, use their car. If we can value that car and lay claim to their title, use that car as collateral to buy a parcel of land in Decentraland, right? Or use their Bitcoin to buy or take mortgage on a parcel of land in Decentraland, and vice versa. If they have an expensive piece of metaverse real estate, they can use that as collateral to buy a real house, right? So it's bi-directional, and it goes, in multi directions. So this ability for us to build this foundational infrastructure for the metaverse, which then allows our customers to, aggregate their assets and really leverage the power of their assets, regardless of the location of their assets, is what we are truly excited about. Where we are in our development journey is we're currently towards the business end of the development phase. We are planning to launch our token and first release in September this year. And then we've got a few things lined up to happen after that. I'll be happy to connect with all of you on LinkedIn and answer any questions you may have, and also open to any potential collaboration opportunities that may exist. Thanks, Alex. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is once you launch, this will be the fantastic, because I mentioned that the current metaverse talk about creative economy and the virtual economy, but actually the fantastic happen, actually the real economy will be combined with the virtual economy, as you mentioned. And then your platform is really important, linking the asset and the valuable things in the physical space to the virtual space, and then they will be co-create each other. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so next one will be TK. Are you there? TK.
am here. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah, he will be
put
he will
myself.
cover like some technical aspect about the metaverse infrastructure for especially for the edge computing and edge network. So let's hear from him about what kind of this kind of infrastructure is important for the metaverse building blocks.
Okay, let's see. Give me a moment here. Let me see if my technical situation works. Okay, sure. Screen. Share. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let me know if you're seeing anything.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I'm trying to see if I can expand this one. Oh, I think. Oh, did I expand it? Okay, so I think you have heard from our distinguished speakers about a lot of things about the metaverse, and I'm going to go into a little bit of a mundane part of this metaverse, which is the underneath the metaverse, basically the plumbing situation, and how does the metaverse can be founded based on the technology. So a few things that I might like to discuss is, first I'll give you a very simplified view of my structures here for the metaverse, how the metaverse could be supported by the technology underneath. And then we're going to talk about a little bit on the needs, and then I'm going to argue a case for the edge networking, especially with the security, and few challenges also both in the security side and as well as in the edge networking side. And that's pretty much going to be my topic of discussion. I would welcome any questions as you see appropriate. I'd love to discuss those things further. So what you see here is kind of a two layers shown here again in the 2D world, but it's actually meant to be for the 3D metaverse. In the top, all the wonderful things that you just heard about, all the non-fungible assets and so forth, and also our digital twins, avatars, and all the marketplace that we're going to be operating on this kind of plane. That's a 3D type of plane that is going to be operating now. How this is going to work? How is it going to be supported? In the physical world, we exist here with our gadgets, all kinds of gadgets and exciting gadgets, all including even some of the haptics. And now they're going to be powered through different engines like AI/ML engine. Artificial intelligence is a key. Without that, we can't even move anything anymore. There is going to be game engines, and then we have some networking infrastructures that we see today as the large cloud data centers, as well as also some virtualization of the network itself, because the network needs to be very flexible and reconfigurable through the software and needs to be very fast. So that's where the SDN technology and the NFV technology comes in. And now on the networking side, there are two major domains. One is like a wide area network domain, and that's basically is being powered by the 5G and the 6G. After the 5G, we're already entering kind of in the 5G plus, or we're experimenting in the 5G plus type of situation. And then we're going to slowly migrating to the 6G. Now, this is, if you're following the 3GPP, third generation partner projects, who is responsible for standardizing all these things worldwide. Their release 18 is going to be targeted towards the 2024, about 2 years from now. Release 17 just got released. So that's kind of release 17. I see it as more like a 5G plus-ish type of, and then release 18 and so forth. We're going to be entering into the 6G world. Now, so these are the foundation, and there is going to be communication between these two layers. And I call the lack of better terms is some sort of an API. Think about it like an API or interfaces. And these API, and we're living in the API world today. So I don't think that's a new terminology for anyone. So we're going to be seeing that all the digital world and the 3D virtual world that is going to be connected, that is going to be powered through the API that is going to be getting all this wonderful technology behind it to make that happen. Now let's go into the main objective on the metaverse. Now, one thing is very clear, that it's going to be all about extremely good experience for the user. So in the primary key there is the real-time or near real-time experience. So just like we live in the physical world, we like to have we are habituated with some sort of an interaction among ourselves, which we call real time, right? Barring the human response time, but we are not used to taking too much of a latency and waiting for something to happen. So that similar thing, I think we may have to notice in the virtual world, although it's extremely hard to do. And that's what is being said in this slide. Basically, I'm pointing out that thing. So the mapping between the physical world to the virtual world is a key, and how fast that is happening, whether if we have a digital avatar or digital representation in the digital world, that needs to act as if like we, in the physical world, however, we are expecting a response time. So saying that, now what are the things that we'll be seeing here? Okay, so this is kind of a typical scenario on the application bandwidth in the game industry. You might be experiencing right now about the 3 meg type of bandwidth, and the latency at about 150, but these are going towards the 82. Let's say in the VR world, you're going to be VR and AR world, you're going to be in the 80 to 100 megabits per second. It's already happening. And your latency expectation is going to be in the tens of milliseconds, meaning about 30, 40 milliseconds, maybe 50 as such. So some of these are coming from the industry that they are experiencing around 10 milliseconds. They're expecting in the AR, VR, and MR world about 10 millisecond type of latency. Now, on the bandwidth wise, we are moving towards the more like a gigabits per application. 10 gigabits per usage is practically, basically is what is going to be needed. 100 gigabits is not too far out of the question. And this is going to be happening also in par with the demand that we have from the 6G world, which will be approaching towards more like the 3G, what do you call it, the 6G world. So a distributed edge scenario for the metaverse scenario. Okay, so this, I don't know why I think I'm in the wrong slide. Bear with me a little bit here. I don't know how I got into that one. I am supposed to be on this slide here. Share. Okay, let's see if I got into the right slide now. Okay, so I think if you're seeing my screen, right?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to move in. And so I think I went over this one, and I also went over this. And so I'm going to move to the next slide. This is the slide I was looking for. Distributed edge scenario for the Web3 metaverse. Now, I envision that basically the edge networking scenario is going to get more complicated, and it needs to be much more distributed because it needs to be scalable when you're supporting something like as humongous as metaverse. And what that means is that you will have edge nodes are typically resource limited, right? They are next to your 5G or 6G cells tower, and they have very limited space of the resources. So what you need to do is you need to basically interconnect those cell towers and the edge node behind them through efficient networking, but they could belong to the different carriers. So one could belong to the carrier one could belong to the carrier two as such. And there comes the jurisdiction, billing scenario, and all kinds of things. So there is a lot of complication as far as scaling outside of one carrier jurisdiction going to the next carrier jurisdiction as such. But however, if the edge network is going to support something like a metaverse in a seamless manner, that's what is expected. So, just like anything else, metaverse is also like some layers. And you might have some sort of regional metaverse that is carried over the carrier one, and there are other regional metaverse that be carrier two, and they could be all integrated through the network again in between the cell towers. Either you could travel through all the way to the core network, but that will add some more additional latency. But it would be preferable that your regional networks can talk to each other and reduce the latency. It's all about the latency. And when you move to the edge, basically all you're saying to the world that, okay, look, you can do the things in much more closer to your near real-time experience than you see typically in an internet world today, or today's world, because that goes through the core network and that goes all the way back to the cloud data center, which adds a tremendous amount of latency, at least 100 milliseconds, 80 milliseconds, that kind of latency are being added. So you wanted to avoid that scenario, you would probably envision something like this kind of scenario, which is distributed edge. And there are Wi-Fi 7 technologies also going to improve on the latency and improve on the bandwidth, as well as like the 5G to the 6G migration in the wide area network is also going to improve the latency. So going to the next one. So in short, we're basically seeing some evolution towards the edge paradigm. Some of the things that we're expecting is extreme performance we're expecting. And that's primarily the hallmark of the edge. You are looking for a significant improvement in the performance compared to, for example, a cloud-based scenario. And then the other part is the software definable and composable infrastructure. Everything has to be software definable, whether it's code defined and so forth, but it needs to be dynamic. It needs to be possible that as you wish. It's also somewhat of a virtual world within the network itself, like the virtual containers and the virtual machines, and those kind of things are going to exist. And then you'll have applications that are much more optimized for the edge. So those, we call it edge native. And some of the developments are already started, for example, API centric or API first type of development, DevOps basically is going on that to create those kind of scenarios. And also, hybrid cloud edge infrastructure needs to happen. So containers, microservices, and connected to a service mesh that connects all your microservices to complete a application that is going to be essential in the edge arena. And if you look at this, the case that we can make, or the argument in favor of edge, is basically it's about the real-time experience. Why? Because you do get the lower latency and also higher bandwidth that is needed for all the applications that we see in the metaverse concept. Distributed architecture, basically on a federated manner, most likely, and also maybe a peer-to-peer that is necessary in order to scale. Now, scalability with decentralization and disaggregation, which is basically very, very important, because you don't want to have a scenario where you're running out of the resources and you have to stop your application service that you are providing, and you need to move and provide those resources from the next node. And these arrangements are extremely going to be done. This is extremely hard. And these are going to be based on a very complicated load balancing scenario. But through the artificial intelligence, AI, ML, I think there are hope that we would be able to do that and maintain SLA. And I have a slide probably after this that might allude to some of this. Virtualization is key. because that's the programmability, that's the definability of the network creation, like network slicing. You have to create slices of networks that are dedicated for certain applications, and that applications are basically going to be the key for your applications that for your services that you are going to be providing. So automation, wireless ubiquity, those are all the things that you need. Now, there are challenges. The challenges, as I mentioned earlier, about the scalability beyond going beyond the local edge node. Now, normally, of course, anytime you provide a service, you have certain kind of an SLA or a KPI conformity that you need to do. The SLA means service level agreement. So if you go with the carrier, you are paying certain amount of money, you expect certain kind of services that has some matrix that it needs to conform. So those metrics must be maintained even if you're moving or scaling horizontally from one node to the other node, and which is physically located in a separate location, maybe in about, let's say, a few 100 meters away, or maybe 1,000 meters away when you're considering distributed edge scenario, right? So how do you maintain your latency when you're injecting certain additional latency as you're moving to the next node? You have to obviously cleverly do your load balancing. You do not necessarily have to have the same latency for every task that is going on in your instances that you are creating within your resources and compute resources or the storage resources as such. And so you need to be able to maintain a properly designed a matrix that you already agreed upon using the AI/ML to know which resources would be most applicable. And that means also resource management optimization. You need AI/ML assistance there. And also, it's extremely important that when you're roaming, meaning you're going from one node to the next node, even though you physically are not moving, but your load, the application that you are using, is actually moving from one edge node to the another node. And that there cannot be any interruption, right? So that needs to be maintained. Now, a couple of points on the security. And the security is basically very, very essential. It's almost embedded in every application that you do. So now that we have a metaverse level, in addition to our physical level, we have two levels of at least thinking of security. Now, in essence of the security is not any different in the virtual world versus the physical world. So the security boundaries, just like your identification, access management, integrity protection, using the trusted module, trust module, confidential computing, those kind of things need to exist. Of course, they're happening in the physical world and in your engine that is powering all these devices and both infrastructure, both the physical and the virtual infrastructure. Now, the containerization, we already know a ton about how to secure those containers in the Kubernetes world. When you orchestrate them, multiple clusters, and they need to be secured. So the traffic between the east to the west needs to be curtailed properly. Some of these containers, there are activities now in this standardization, they're called kata container, that are actually a confidential container. So, so these containers are not even seen by the host machine, for example, that is running these containers. So there are a lot of things happening, and some of these things have to be utilized. This is not a one size fit all type of security solution. So there needs to be basically orchestrated and based on your load and the user and the applications that you are using, how sensitive they are to the security. And the other parts we know, microsegmentation, domain slicing, user plane integrity. Of course, we have to maintain those things from the denial of service, certificate of management through the certification management, and also DNS protection. Supply chain protection is another big key that everybody is looking at. And these are basically your softwares that are going into your application software as well as the physical infrastructure, physical entities. all those things fully have to be protected. There is all kinds of signature verification. There is what do you call integrity verification. Those are all being happening. And key obviously is zero trust. So if you have a zero trust mechanism for all your security things, then you are doing a lot better, because you are assuming that your attack surface can be anywhere. So you're not necessarily isolating any attack surface and thinking mistakenly that that surface is protected. So some of the additional security considerations are basically extremely important in the metaverse context. Is how do you optimize the performance in the metaverse world, right? While you're hardening the access control and encryption, because every one of these security measures, like it or not, has some pricing associated with it. So these are primarily latency pricing, right? Anything you do is an encryption, or you do an identification, verification, and so forth, like that will consume some latency. So how do you make these things happen so that it still maintains the real-time expectation or near real-time expectation by your users? These are going to be the key challenges that we need to sort through as we embark on this world. Distributed edge also brings up a lot of security solutions, because you're going beyond the one jurisdiction to the other jurisdiction, and their securities are different or controlled by different jurisdictions. So how do you integrate them? How do you make it almost looks like a seamless from the user perspective? Application solution security needs to be balanced against the KPI. This is basically earlier we talked about just the latency and the power budgets. Multi-layer virtualization. This is going to happen even in the metaverse world. Like we already saw in the physical world, we do have virtualization with the SDN and B virtualizing the network entities. There are physical network entities, there are virtual network entities. So these all exist, and there are physical processors, there is also virtual processor. Now these are all residing in the physical world. However, in the metaverse world, as it is supporting the metaverse may also have layers of virtualization depending on how we orchestrate those. So we need to keep that in mind. And there is going to be different kinds of attacks also that we may not have seen right now through the help of metaverse in some ways, because people may be able to attack through the virtual entity, like your avatar and so forth, and make the avatar feel like as if if you're walking through a street or something like that, you are mistakenly falling down, even though you are actually not falling. And that causes a hiccup towards your interaction towards the human or the physical world human, that is, or the user that is actually being affected. So how do you prevent that thing happening? Those are very, very important considerations that we need to do. Let's see. So some of the resilient edge hardwares are being developed. That is probably to keep in mind that we have seen multi-core processors with next generation, and right now it's on the 12th generation of the Intel's the processors, as well as CPU, GPU, and vision processor units are also happening. Some of the things that are becoming very clear is that they would have very almost an embedded TPM, as well as confidential computing, which basically secures your memory allocation, processor allocation, totally encrypted from the rest of the users. So they are being secured very well. And these are more and more common in the next and next generations processors, both on the central processing unit as well as graphic processing unit, and also specialized processing unit like TensorFlow processing unit or vision processing unit, so forth. And of course, your storage virtualization is extremely key point, and how fast it is, because the storage latency has to improve significantly. And I think there are some OPL2 storage spec, for example, using the SSDs and the NVMEs, and they are reducing those latencies into a significant reduction. And right now they are like going into the bandwidth of almost approaching 4 gigabits and approaching towards the 7 gigabits on the NVMe world, which is basically almost like a memory speed. And then, that's going to be more and more common so that you don't encounter any bottlenecks on this. I'm going to stop in that this slide to the interest of time. If there are any questions, please feel free to send me that through the chat box or ask whenever Alex is ready to allow that. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, TK. I think that that's very detailed aspect of the Metaverse infrastructure, especially the edge computing and the edge network. So yeah, we really this kind of the sophisticated way to like manage the network. Without this one, actually, the whatever the application and whatever we think about the providing experience, they will not be perfect, right? Because so I think that even this is technically very difficult to implement, but it is needed, and then we need the joint effort to produce this kind of the sophisticated network management network builder. Thank you, TK.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, so next, Moses, are you there? Okay, if not, Kimberly, are you going to finish up?
That's up to you, Alex. If you'd like
you can
redo.
finish up. Yeah, because we already have your previous recording, right? So you can skim over the what is essential point and or whatever update. It's up to you. So you can finish up the final like session of today's webinar, right? So all for you now.
Okay, I need to stop the previous screen share.
Mm-hmm.
The person before me.
Oh, do I need to do something? I suppose, let's see, where am I?
I think that is a good topic because of
I'm not sharing anymore, right?
Right.
No, it says you cannot share until the other participant is sharing.
Yeah. Kimberly, you can go ahead now. So you can level everything we have in now, and then also like how we build a responsible metaverse and other aspects.
Okay. Well, Alex, first of all, I really just appreciate you always just roll with it. You're very good. Yeah. And what fascinates me is that I'm in technology, but I have the same technology issues everyone else does. So thank you again, everybody. I think that as a wrap today, maybe it is fitting, Alex, that we end with our why. And we've looked at this wide range of amazing, exciting things we can do in every industry and spectrum. We've looked at infrastructure. We've looked at challenges and opportunities across the circumference. And it still comes back to what are we doing here? And how are we going to go about it in a way that actually makes a better world that all of us are glad we've co-created? So that's really what this subject is about. So within the framework of building a responsible and sustainable metaverse, which was the webinar I was part of with Alex, we carved out a piece of that to talk about ethical, equitable, and mindful. And I'll go quickly through, but reminding us that it is not the technology that is good or bad or right or wrong. It is really comes down to how people choose to use it, and we're those people. So when we look at the pieces of ethical, equitable, and mindful, the ethical part are around our principles, our boundaries, our standards of operation, and our protections. Equitable is who's playing, who's at the table and who's not. And mindful really comes down to our impact, our purpose, and can we find a way to do no harm and to actually contribute to the good? I won't break all this down, but ethics are sometimes thought of as morals. Ethics, in my opinion, should also be moral. but ethics does not mean morality. It means what are your guiding principles, your belief systems. We talked about in the previous seminar that even the mafia has ethics and guiding principles. It's like, don't tell. They have, we talked about an attorney may have the difference between his moral guiding principles may be that he wants justice and truth to prevail, but his ethical responsibility is that, or hers, is that their client is innocent until proven guilty. So even if they know that client is guilty, they have an ethical responsibility to defend them. So it's important for us to understand that there's going to be a wide range of how we look at things and what is ethical in the eye of the beholder, and it's not a given. I just gave those examples. Now let's talk about what do most people state is their concern. There's many headlines that underscore this, but nothing concerns the public more about the metaverse than the misuse of their personal data. That there's already a lot of fear, concerns, and horror stories in our Web 2 world. People do not want to magnify that in the Web 3 world. And every part of our vulnerability is exponentially greater in Web 3. So these concerns are not just hype or misguided. They actually are real vulnerabilities. As it said, over half the public says this is their main concern. 2 in 5 care about bullying, safety, and sexual harassment. And there's already been major stories about all these things happening in our early forays into the metaverse. And lots of conversation about impacts to our mental health and our well-being, physically as well as mentally. Lots of surveys underscore this. This is one of them. We talked about should we leave our concerns to the big companies that are sort of leading the way? And Meta, since they started a lot of this conversation, was a company that we looked at and said, well, what are their operating and cultural operating principles and values? Do they protect us as they do it? And when we looked at them, we saw that actually their guiding principles were about protecting them. It doesn't mean that they were about not helping us or not protecting us, but their ethos is to protect and build their company, not to protect you. Protecting you still falls on you and to the principles and values we decide are part of the operating principles of the metaverse. So really what we're going to be looking at is how do we balance out our wants and our needs, our rights and our freedom, access and safety, profits, privacy. Many of these things conflict when you put them, which is more important and to who. These are going to be very serious, significant, and ongoing conversations across the spectrum as we co-create this metaverse. Most of the code of ethics that we're looking at really are back to our guiding principles, our rules and boundaries, standards of operations, and protections. Now, in our last conversation, we talked about how was this done in Web 2? And there's a group called Oasis that is a coalition of players, big and small, who came together to perpetually both develop, monitor, and evolve the standards of Web 2. Oasis is still active and has stepped in as a leader and coalition for the metaverse. But there are others that have stepped in that I think we need on our radar, because these are forming during the metaverse and Web 3 process. The Metaverse Standards Forum is also similar to Oasis in that it is a coalition of all kinds of brands, all kinds of players, large and small. I would invite you to take a look at that. My company, Human Tech, is a part of the Metaverse Standards Forum. And there are different ways that you can be involved as a participant or as a principal. Human Tech is actually involved as a principal, which means that we will be at some of the decision-making forums. And we need a lot more kinds of companies at the table. There's also a headline just in the last few days. So this is an update also, Alex, that the headline was Web3 brands join forces to form the Open Metaverse Alliance. And the Open Metaverse Alliance is actually being formed as a DAO. So this is the first of its kind. And it's got the Sandbox and Decentraland are key players who have brought this together. There's others, but those two were focused on in this particular article. But again, they say that the purpose of banding together is that they understand that no one player, no one industry owns the issues that we're facing. Interoperability is considered the holy grail. So if all these big players and thousands, hundreds of thousands of small players don't get our acts together, interoperability will never happen. So that seems to be the focus from an infrastructure. Inclusivity and transparency, that matters to the players, but I have to say it matters to the public. The public weighs in on those even more than the brands do. And that's why we need to be at the table and not delegate our responsibility for this metaverse world that we're creating. The big fight on points of view and really completely different worldviews are about decentralization. You've got to one extreme, folks that don't want any centralized anything, that there is no one player, we all are going to figure it out, and we don't want we want limited cooperation because that somehow creates monopolies. Some of those same folks say they want safety, security, and protection. And so part of what we're going to be working out as a collective is how many parts of freedom will I trade for how many parts of security and protection? And again, the spectrum is wide and the points of view are many. So there is no one answer. And I really want to invite everybody here, be part of this conversation, be part of this decision-making. Don't just watch. Metaverse is supposed to be a participation world, not a spectator sport. Now, if we move from ethical and operating standards to equitable. Diverse, inclusive, equitable. We all know these terms from our work world and what we're wanting to do in Web 2 about having people at the table. But there's another adjective that's being added called belonging. And I want to say just a word about that, because as we take each of these as a metric, diverse speaks for itself. Do we have all ages, all nationalities? Do we have a truly representative metaverse, or are a handful of leaders who look and think alike creating the next world just like we did the last one? That's a very real question that will affect every one of us for decades to come. Inclusive is the way we make sure that it is diverse. And equitable means that we move from tokenism or a smattering of folks, but that we have rich exchange across every end of the spectrum. And the way we really make that meaningful is to not just have folks around the table, but welcomed at the table and deeply engaged. This is the picture worth 1,000 words. There's nothing wrong with this picture. There's lots of rooms that look like this, and these are all fine people. But if we want to achieve what I just described, the pictures we see of the metaverse and the rooms in the future need to look a lot different than this, and that's up to us. So I won't dwell on these. These are some fairly dismal statistics that we all know. When it comes to diversity, especially in gender, men hold 75% of all US tech jobs. Women hold 25%. So I don't need to explain that pie. We just need to bake another pie. And my goal is to see this pie be a rich balance, and that we are excited to be working together. It's time we do this together. We have the same issues when it comes to race. Again, this pie shows that today, diversity in high tech, 62% is white, 20% is Asian, 8% Hispanic and Latino, 7% Black. Again, anybody can look at that pie and know what we need to do. This is seen as one of the greatest opportunities that the world has ever faced, and that we can take everything we know that we didn't know in our Web 2 world and bring it into a Web 3 world intentionally. It should not be an afterthought. But when we talk about diversity and inclusivity, this is meant to bring to our attention that there isn't just one or two metrics. It isn't male or female, Black or white or Asian, but there's each of these are a slice of a slice of a slice of the pie that represents humanity. And we identify with multiple ones of those. If we're going to get this right, we have to pay attention to each of those, because those perspectives create a different outcome in every brand, in every part of the metaverse, in every experience. What I didn't know, even though I work in diversity and inclusion as part of my work for many years, the more I keep learning and the more we unpack this, the more I realize that there are even more puzzle pieces, and they're playing out inside our organizations and in across the technology. We've just not named them, but they, as we identify them and as folks step up and represent parts of their experience, what we are creating is something so much more multidimensional that has been suppressed all along and coming out in unintentional ways. For me, this is an opportunity to create an intentional metaverse. And it looks something like this. All I'll say is that it wasn't three layers or 7 layers or 9. I heard the top 7, the top 9 diversity. The latest study says there's 39 types of diversity. I don't know how we're going to take that on as a challenge, but it is our challenge. And I think it's going to be exciting what it means if we deliberately identify and create constellations that welcome all the ways we show up in the world. I mentioned before, I won't unpack much of this, but pay attention to the worldviews of centralized and decentralized metaverse. This is a very much a different outcome, a very different approach according to which belief system is going to win and where you stand in that. The strengths of a centralized have a long-term strategy, a roadmap. There's responsibilities that people have and accountability. The challenges are all the things that we've seen in the past. Participation is controlled. Decisions are made by fewer folks. And the creativity and the co-creativity that all of us are excited about in the metaverse can be compromised in a centralized world. In a decentralized world, we have more of that freedom, but we also have more vulnerability. And we also have liability that we're not accustomed to having. And we've seen time and time again, folks that were very excited about the freedom, if their wallet was hacked and they lost their money, they were looking around for who could help them, because in our Web 2 world, we have a backup system. In a Web 3 world, we have to build the bridges or live with the consequences. So this is not an automatic outcome. This is a conversation very much in process right now, and our destiny is being decided. That's why you need to be at the table, or be decided for you. Now, what does a mindful metaverse mean? What is it and why? I happen to be a big, longtime fan of Buckminster Fuller. And his quote was, "Humanity is acquiring all the right technology for all the wrong reasons." And while I love all the creativity, I want to play in every one of these proverbial sandboxes, I also can tell you that I'm not interested in technology just for the heck of it. I do believe this is our opportunity to create a better world for everyone and our children and our children's children. I have been a UN representative for over 20 years. I'm a special projects advisor, and so I work in innovation. I work in gender equity and empowerment of women, youth, and communities at large. But I also am a partner on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I hope that most of you in the room know about that, but these are the global goals that have been agreed to and made priorities by the majority of the countries in the world. And what's exciting to me is that the metaverse and Web3 can and does play a role in every facet of these 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. But part of what I love about working with Alex is that Alex doesn't just know, and those of us who are together here, we don't just know that they correlate, we want to make sure that they do. So our goal really is to have a sustainable, equitable metaverse. It's not just interesting, it's our goal. It's our point. We're going to take the things we want, we know that is important and is important to most people of the world, and put them at the front of the priority list, not an afterthought. And that really is both the responsibility and the opportunity, and I think the moral responsibility of our time as well, Alex. Building a world where we can meet our own needs without denying future generations a healthy planet and society is not impossible. Let's say that again. It is not impossible. The question is where societies choose to put their creative efforts. Again, the choice is in our hands. This is not happening to us. This is happening through us. It is all about values. And as we said before, values vary from person to person, but I can tell you this, I've been part of the global values survey for many years. And while there is a wide spectrum of nuances, our core values as human beings actually are pretty universal. That's why we can afford to lead this way, because this is us. We're now invited to make the choice to put our values first and build our technology in a way to support it. It's going to take a lot more conversations. That's why we do webinars and conversations like this, and why we're going to be doing a whole lot more, because this is the greatest and oldest technology of our time. Dialogue and exchange, especially as you can see in this picture, with people who don't look just like you. In fact, make it a point to have conversations with people who don't think like you, don't work where you work, because these exchanges are how we make that diverse, equitable, inclusive world and have an exciting new outcome that the world has never known, and we co-created it. So where are we headed? Stay tuned. Get your popcorn, as we said, because a lot is coming on this channel. And we hope that you're not just an observer of what's ahead, but you are front and center, a co-creator and participant and builder of the greatest opportunity of our generation and our time. A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together is reality. That's the ultimate extended reality. Let's all be part of it together. Thanks.
Thank
See
you,
you there.
Kimberly. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, because I gave 3 times of the opportunity to talk about the metaverse in South Korea, and then I just insist at the end, what is our goal? We want to build one metaverse, not metaverse, multiple metaverse, multiple and then so we have only one opportunity that we can build one of like a metaverse, right? So it is a joint effort. It is that not just for the meta Microsoft, Apple, or whatever big company, or what just one nation. It is a global effort. The reason is that for example, the God create our earth, but we don't keep our earth like make better, or that we have some like current environment problem, all kind of thing. Actually, that we didn't manage it, we didn't use it like a light way. So I think about I think that this metaverse is another chance we can do correctly things better, right? So it's up to you and up to me and everyone, right? So what will be the future metaverse? And then at least we know that the metaverse is a part of everyday of our life, and it will be that we will be there, and then it'll be like a coherence with our actual like a physical us. So it's early time, but we need to think about what is the best way, what is the correct way, and then that's why that I talk with a lot of the like the global readers like Kimberly and everyone that participated today, and what is the better way, what is the like the correct way to build up, right? So I think that this is a starting point. And then for the first year that actually I explored all aspect of the metaverse, and I have something have in mind that like collaborate with like Kimberly and other people, we can do better, right? So I'm thinking about that, or for the like next like how we can do collaborate through this kind of the conversational stage or something like this. But Kimberly, you are very helpful to make me like to think about this kind of thing, because I thank you for that. And also other people, other speakers to participate. You know that we started from I counted the number that we started at 12 noon, about the 60, now about the 17, but it was successful, right? We spent 4 hours, right? But still the 17, like the enthusiastic people to stay here and then hear about and share about their insight, their experience about the metaverse. So in next time we'll be in a more better situation and better shape and better insight, and then hope to see you again in my next webinar about the metaverse and sustainability and ESG. Okay, so let's finish up in 5 minutes. I want to finish up in 4. So is there anyone to share your like a final comment or whatever you think about it? Is there anyone? Okay, so nobody, maybe tired. Yeah, okay, so thank you for everyone. Yeah, as I said, the recording will be shared. And then I want you to keep in touch with other speakers to further extend your like experience, further expand your like share your idea, the insight with other speakers, and then we can learn each other, we can experience each other. Thank you for everyone to stay up to this late time. Okay, hopefully you will have a good time after this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.